The time has come once again to speak as witches and wizards do. I'm Daniel Dubois,
And I'm Michaela Gaffin-Stone.
and we're your hosts for the Think Like a Wizard podcast. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 17, Intentions. So this should be a good topic, as it comes off of just discussing the cinnamon ritual, the cinnamon abundance ritual. So it was funny when we decided, it just kind of came to me. It's like, well, since we're talking about magic and magic is all about intention, let's do a whole episode of what intention is.
Yeah, and the difference between the different rituals is really and truly its intention. Which one do you resonate with, and which one is there?
Yeah. Even like starting off this episode, I'm getting not guidance, but not guidance.
Well, I woke up with some this morning, so I can throw some. Yeah, I often get that when I wake up first thing in the morning. I will just get hit with this, and it's information like, oh, I need to do that, or oh yeah, that's true, I need to add that into this thing, and I suddenly get a whole heap of information, literally first thing in the morning. And what came to me first thing this morning was you need to backtrack from intention to just explore the wider picture briefly to the law of attraction. Everybody's heard of that, The Secret, and so on, right? And what you put out comes back to you. That's vibration thing and law of attraction. And also that and the reticular activating system in the brain, where you get more of what you focus on. So if you focus on dragons, you'll see dragons everywhere. No, wait. If you focus on red cars, you'll see red cars everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's those two things come together and they focus in intention. So it's like intention is the funnel, if you will, for the law of attraction and for your focus from the reticular activating system. And it's kind of like taking a broad power and channeling it into something narrow so it becomes more intense.
Yes.
And if you look at your intention that way, that is why it's so important when you say things, when you do things, when you interact. Like you'll hear, particularly from Buddhist teachings, be mindful, be aware, think before you speak kind of language. Yes. And there's a reason for that, because what you put out there is what's going to come back. So intention is hugely important. It will make the difference in the outcome.
Yeah. And that was my guidance. That was my guidance, non-guidance.
Well, that's how I woke up, yeah.
It was all that beforehand. So to once again say it for like the 6 billionth time, this is why you're the co-host. There's what do you call it? There's a shared flow here between you and I. So
yeah, that's why the podcasts work well, I would say.
Yeah. So yeah, me too. I was going to touch on it, right? The more you understand what you intend, and the more you place in your mind what you intend, then you're focusing the energy properly. Or as I like to say, right? The more you consider what you intend, just like with your free will, the more you understand what you want to accomplish, the more you understand the consequences of what you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Your success.
You got to think it through, but another piece to this, and an image I just had, and I do get a lot of visual images. An image I just had was a huge radar dish, and then all this stuff comes into the radar dish and gets beamed out from the center. Right, that's your intention. And the other thing that you really need to have in place, you need to have clarity on, is your motivation. And it's a nuance. Intention, motivation, they're not quite the same. The one is why you intend the other. So, what is driving you in your intention? And be honest with yourself because people can lie to themselves very easily. We do it all the time. Like, I'll
Hmm.
go on that diet tomorrow. We all know that's a lie. No, you're not.
Yes.
And I'm going to run a marathon in 3 months' time. No, no, you're probably not. We lie to ourselves all the time. So, but this is really important to be brave enough to be honest with yourself about your motivation, because that will guide how your intention flows. It points the laser, if you will.
Yes.
So you got to be really clear on, are you really doing this for the greater good for other people as well as yourself, or other people and not yourself? Or is it actually all about you? And there's no judgment here, but you just got to know what you're doing.
Yeah. This brings me to the thought of, so in my own practice, right, I use well, I mean, there's five Western alchemical elements, but the fifth one is kind of the one the four exist in. But so I use the four, right? And I use earth as the element of the self. Fire is the element of giving yourself to others. And then water as understanding yourself in relation to others. And then air being the other and just contemplating the other without yourself. And you kind of need all of that in your magic to one degree or another as a guideline. Like when I started that metaphor, I didn't realize how useful it was.
And that's flow, right? That's
Yeah.
exactly what that is. You just start talking and it falls into place. And that requires a level of trust of yourself,
Yeah.
trust of the flow, that it will be there, it will come. And then you
Yeah.
deliver the gems, right? And
Yeah.
that's, you have to have clarity for that. That's a clear pipeline of flow right there. That's what the
Yeah.
listener just heard. And for both of us, actually, because for me, what everything I said came up. It started this morning when I woke up,
Mm.
which, I'm 2 hours earlier than Danielle in the
Yeah.
timeline on this planet. So it's earlier for me. I haven't been awake
Yeah.
that long, but
Yeah.
that's how it works. That's flow.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Part of, so while you were talking, one of the things I got, and it's going to be too late. This episode is going to come out probably end of December into the new year. So it's going to be far too late for the elections. And I'm not going to post this one out of turn for elections. But this episode has a great lesson for people who were looking at voting. And it came up. So I'm talking about it.
Okay.
Because it's not just voting, it's how you view your life, never mind magic and spirituality aside, just functioning in life. You need these same rules. Yeah.
Actually, it
Go
is
ahead.
interesting. It is
Yeah.
interesting to see how people are voting for different reasons.
Hmm.
They're choosing for very different reasons. And it's a personal agenda and tends to be quite narrow.
Hmm.
And if that one box is ticked, they'll vote for that person. Now, the pickings are slim, honestly, from my side, and we
Yeah.
don't know at this point who quote unquote won the election, but
Mm.
I'm predicting right now, I'm calling right now before the election happens,
Right.
that people will be losing their minds on November 5th and 6th. And there's going to be a lot of unfortunate behavior happening. That's
Yeah.
my prediction now before the election.
And it won't even matter who wins. That's the point.
No,
It'll
no,
still
no,
be like
no.
that.
It doesn't matter. It's going to be an absolute. Get ready to beat this one out, but it's going to
Yeah.
be a complete clusterfuck.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a mess. Either way. Yep.
Yeah. I'm doing it in hopes that at least it'll be in time for a Canadian election. This
That
message.
too, that too is very problematic. I've been looking at what you got there, and
Mm.
frankly, it's not good there either.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to be a problem either way.
Yeah. It's funny. So the wording I'm getting is magic is life, life is magic. Or
Yes,
probably even more said, so in life, so in magic, and so in magic, so in life.
so mote it be.
Yeah. Because the idea is like, if you're listening to this podcast and you're really listening to it, this message will have already been like deeply sunk into you. Everything you do in the spiritual and the magical, you're doing in the real, in the material, non-magical world, mundane, if you will, world, you're doing the same thing. Every principle we've taught you, we've discussed, applies to both. And if you, even
They're
though this
inseparable.
podcast is for people spiritually awakening, the more I listen to us talk, the more I'm like, as I would normally word things, Jesus fucking Christ, this matches for so much.
Well, it's inseparable. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's some people are becoming more and more aware of that fact, and others are less aware. It's interesting. Nobody's staying the same, it seems to me. But that is actually the point, is none of it is separable. So when you other people for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, whether it's because they're um, Jewish
Yeah.
or Catholic or,
Mm-hmm.
black, white, French,
Yeah.
English, doesn't matter. Whatever the reason, it is so shallow. It barely makes a dent on the universe as to its existence. Like that
Mm-hmm.
excuse that you have doesn't truly exist. It's just like this curtain that's waving about, and people are getting focused on the curtain and making it mean all kinds of things. And it's a total distraction from your evolution. You cannot move forward, you cannot progress if you're caught up in all this mundane bullshit that's going on the planet. You got to
Yeah.
like see, and this again is slow down to speed up. You got to
Mm-hmm.
see that what you're looking at isn't significant. It feels it, yes. It looks it, yes. That's the nature of a hologram or an illusion,
Right.
right? They do look real, they feel real. Your response to it is real. Is it the point? Is it
Yeah.
actually what you're here to do, or is it pulling your energy away? Now, I heard somebody talking about tarot being the devil's work
Ah, yes.
yesterday, just
Mm.
yesterday.
Just yesterday again.
Yeah, and it always fascinates me.
Yeah.
Tarot is the devil's work. And it's like, I would love to examine that for even 5 minutes with the person who says it, because there is no substance to that statement, nor can there be. They can't possibly hold an argument with me for 5 minutes. It's not,
Yeah.
there's nothing there to use, right? But if you
Yeah.
are somebody who believes in the devil's work, then I
Mm.
invite you to look at the distractions that are going on in the planet.
Yeah.
And if those things siphoning off your energy, particularly when you're incited to hatred of someone,
Mm-hmm.
such as all the anti-Semitism going around at the moment, if you're buying into that, you are literally just pouring your energy down the toilet for
Mm.
nothing. And I warn you, if you get what you want, oh,
Mm.
anti-Semites, you are going to be extremely sad and totally shafted, because what comes next, the Jewish nation is standing
Mm.
between you and an utter disaster. So you might want to bear that in mind. That just came up,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it's a thing.
yeah. What I'm there's a difference between the first 10 minutes of this podcast
Yes, there
and the
is.
rest of this podcast, and the current is strong in that switch. It happened for a reason. And with intention and with saying that, so in magic, so in life, so in life, so in magic, that is all intended. It's an intended message for, listen, people, you guys start getting your shit together, because this is going to come out right at the end of the year, around the end of the year.
Uh,
So, and this is the message I'm getting: 2025 is the year to get your shit together.
oh, big time.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Because if you don't have it together by 2027, and trust me, now is already late to start.
Yeah.
But if you don't have it together by 2027, then it's going to be a rough ride.
Yeah.
The question is, do you want to go in the ocean in a stabilized sort of cruise ship, or do you want to be
Yeah.
in a rubber dinghy? You
Yeah.
pick.
And that's the thing, right? So I guess that's the thrust of this episode going forward. And intention is key to it,
It
because
is.
intention is an extension of your free will, and your free will is everything to do to how you function in the spirit world and in this world.
It's going to determine your direction. It's going to determine the vessel you're in on that ocean, because that ocean is going to be turbulent. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
moving. It's not going to stay still whether you want it to or not. It's not going to let me make this clear because this
Mm,
just came very
mm,
strongly through for me, and that is we are not going back. Whatever's happening right now,
mm,
and this, we're doing this episode a little bit early, so we don't
yeah,
know yet, but
right.
I have a very strong feeling that whatever's happening right now, there's no point in wasting your energy again in looking back and saying, I want to go back to that time. It's done, it's gone,
Yeah.
it served its purpose, and we don't have that anymore. It doesn't exist. You have to look forward, and now is the time to pick what kind of lifeboat you're in. Where are you going to put your energy? And if it's in hatred of
Mm,
anybody, any institution,
mm,
even, like I'm going to have to work on this because I have a very
yeah.
big thing about the food industry, and I am mad as
Mm,
hell at the food industry. So I have to manage how much energy I put to that and how I use it.
right.
So my intention with my anger at the food industry is to bring that information to people so they understand and can advocate for themselves. So I'm channeling that into
Mm,
something that's positive for everybody. And my motivation is very clear on this one.
right.
But if you're funneling anger and yelling and shouting with
Mm,
nothing productive happening and good
right.
productive, then the size of your boat's shrinking. That's
Yeah.
basically
Well,
it. You're losing your stabilizers, man. You might not want to do that.
yeah. Well, it's everything you just said has been pretty much my week. Like, so I've been going down, what is it, a trip of nostalgia, right?
Okay.
I've been watching old commercials and old TV shows, not old TV shows, old, because Halloween's old Halloween specials and that. And the one message that kept coming back in my head was, you can't go back. That's the past, let it go. Like, I got my nostalgia fill out of it for the moment when I started, but then it was like, but do you want to go back to this? Like, and you don't. There's so many things missing. There's so much, even though arguably because I was younger, it was simpler. A lot of things are missed out. A lot of
It
things that,
didn't seem simple at the time.
right. But there's things missing. Like me for my youth, right? All the food to go with food, right? All the push was don't do homemade anymore. Buy this instant product because it's just as good as homemade, right?
Right.
That was the push. And so when I look back at those times, this is all I see. Like I look at the things that made me happy at the time, right? Like, oh, go to McDonald's, go to Burger King, go whatever. They have the toys and stuff like that. But looking back on it, I'm like, okay, I get why I got the thrill as a kid, but it's like everything was brutal. Everything was like terrible for me. Everything was that. And even back then, one would have argued the food was a better quality than it is now.
Oh,
Because
it
now
was.
people are getting away with more stuff, and you have the encroachment of food in the food industry on regulate the regulatory boards, and so it's
So again, politically, it doesn't matter which way you roll. I don't care.
that's right.
Facts are historically, Ronald Reagan
Mm-hmm.
took away a lot of the checks and balances on marketing, on
Mm-hmm.
the food industry, on a whole lot of things. And he improved the marketplace
Mm-hmm.
financially a lot. And people were really happy with that. What they didn't see immediately was the damage that that was going to do because
Yeah.
kids prior to Ronald Reagan, you could not advertise directly to kids. You couldn't sell them the cereals, you couldn't sell them the toys anywhere near the way you can now. You had to be
Right.
really clever to do that because it wasn't allowed to sell to kids. There was a time where news could be explicit and news couldn't because of kids. We've lost
Mm-hmm.
that. Then the food industry and all the chemicals that they put in there, it is a free for all. There is no regulatory body worth its salt. And I use that term importantly because salt is purification and
Yeah.
protection in witchcraft. And salt is very, very important. And germs and bad things don't live in salt. Well,
Yeah.
these guys aren't worth any kind of salt. Like they're just, yes, you need to put a ring around you to keep them out.
Yeah.
Because again, you want to talk devil's work? Look over
Mm-hmm.
that way. I can
Yeah.
find you devil's work all day long if that's something you believe in,
Yes.
but it ain't tarot.
And salt has also been a major theme. in my life for the last few months.
Salt is really important. Like it's such a
Yeah.
big deal. And again, the quality of salt.
Hmm.
This is like a metaphor for the rest of what we're doing in life as well. You buy table salt and it runs nice and smoothly and it's very easy to use. Have you ever wondered why it's like that? Or why it doesn't clump up if you live in a humid climate? Why is it always exactly like that? And why is it so uniform? It's like that because it's been processed to hell and back.
Yeah.
It's full of anti-caking agents and all kinds of chemicals that make it flow smoothly. It's been lubricated, if you will.
Yeah.
So that product isn't worth its salt either.
Mm.
It's not something the body can handle anywhere near as well as if you buy the Celtic salt, which is
Mm.
kind of grey looking, and that is actually, hey folks, full disclaimer here, that's the color of salt. Um,
Yeah.
it's not this. Salt is white, but it typically has some impurities, some
Yeah.
minerals in it. And if anybody listening just said, "Oh, I don't want to eat dirt," man alive, start reading your labels
Yeah.
because you're eating worse than dirt.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Celtic salt or Himalayan salt,
Yeah.
that is worth using. The other stuff, don't put it in your body, but good for a protection circle. If you
Mm.
want to keep bad things away from you and you need a protection circle,
Yeah.
or you need to bring the elements in and do a pentagram, that's, by the way, pentagram is not for summoning devils and
Yeah.
demons and stuff, people. This is a protection thing and it's part of a ritual.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So
Well,
devil's
that's the other
work is
thing,
not
right?
where you think it is. It's
Yeah.
everywhere else, actually.
I hadn't thought about it much when I started this podcast because I'd assumed it would go without saying. But you're right. There's a lot of misconceptions that we could be clearing up doing this podcast.
There are. And people just, they don't look it up. They don't research it. They just assume what they've heard is true
Hmm.
because, Disney loves to make devils with horns. And,
Hmm.
if there's going to be a pentagram, then nothing good happens, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's a movie or a cartoon or whatever, it's always you're summoning a demon or a devil.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if that was true, we'd have an awful lot of those running around right now
Yeah.
with horns showing, and
Well, you know
that's
what, though, right? Speaking about things with magical properties that are misunderstood, carrots keep demons at bay.
carrots.
Carrots, yeah, apparently.
Oh,
And
that's
there's a lot of
interesting.
carrots available. So, and people have gardens.
I'm gonna have to look into that. I don't know that one.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, right? Me, all my training is the fundamentals. Anything you go forward with, like, and I do pick up a smattering of things here and there, but it's
Hmm.
still basically down to the fundamentals. But yeah, I had heard this a while back. Actually, I want to say last century, probably. Carrots ward
That's
off.
interesting.
And
Hmm.
that was the example. The person was kind of making a joking thing about the no one sees demons anymore, but it's like, well, carrots are wildly available across the world. So
Huh. I'll have to look that up. And that actually brings up a good point that, I know some stuff about
mm,
witchcraft. I don't know anywhere near
mm,
everything. It's like it's the tip of what's out there. I can't possibly pretend to know everything.
right.
So, you hear stuff from you, Danielle, and from me,
Mm,
but this is what we have, what we know, what we work with.
right.
There's tons more out there. Like, whoa, go play with it and
Well,
go find what
yeah.
resonates for you. What's your thing? Because you'll hear, like Danielle, you talk about your practice and how that
Hmm.
looks, and mine is different.
Right.
Neither of them are wrong in any way, shape, or form. They are both correct
Hmm.
for the person who's using them. So that's what the listener needs to find is what, if anything, that either of us say resonates, or does it
Right.
spark an interest in something else? Like
Yeah.
water rituals are utterly fascinating and they can be so good. Like I've done some shamanic journeying and so on. And water has a big part in that always when I do it.
Yeah.
It's just that's the only time I use it though, is then.
Yeah.
And oh, for anybody who's considering the medicine journeys,
Yeah.
going into the shamanic traditions and
Mm,
using the medicines there. That's entirely up to you.
mm.
Be very sure about why you want to do that and how strong are you mentally. Um, do you have people that can support you when you're
Yes.
going through some stuff afterwards? Because the whole point of plant medicine in
Mm,
shamanic journeys is that it alters your reality, it alters your focus, your abilities to cope. Um, it alters a lot of things, and you don't know how it's going to go until it goes. It's
yes.
a bit like climbing a very high mountain. And, Edmund Hillary went up Everest several times before he actually got, um, I was going to say elevation sickness. Holy smokes, I'm
Uh,
losing my language here.
mm,
But, he didn't have a problem climbing 6 times. And on the seventh,
right.
he did. Plant medicine, you might be fine, you might be not, and it'll bring out some very big emotions. So if that's
Yes.
something the person listening wants to explore, consider very carefully before you do that. Me, I don't do it because I don't like to lose um, my capacity to focus like that. That's my choice.
Yeah. While you were talking, something came to me, and I don't even know if it's still a thing anymore because I haven't heard about it in a long time. But techno-paganism. So doing all your rituals and stuff. The joke that came to mind when you were talking was a list of for a while there was you might be because the that whole you might be a redneck
Yeah,
thing became popular with
Jim
and
Foxworthy.
yeah. So one of the jokes was, you might be a techno pagan if your protection circle is 32,000 square kilometers in size because of everyone on the internet connecting together. So your coven is like around the world or in large spaces.
I haven't heard the term, but I mean, there are a lot
So
of,
techno pagan, and then it came out in the 90s, and I don't know if it just kind of got absorbed, and because computers became more common and the internet became more
yeah,
common, it just became regular paganism.
yeah. I think it's just part of how you do things now because there's a lot of covens that are online,
Yeah,
and there are
and
some
so
who are in person, and it just
mm,
depends on what you've got access to. And some
and
will do
so
a bit of each.
this comes up to my understanding because it illustrates the power of people getting together and
Mhm.
just how much you can cover, not just like not just literally materials, like the material distance you can cover. Because if your coven is in, like, let's say the United States, so you cover as many states as you can, the internet is your conductor of your
Mhm.
intention and then so your protection circle is really massive.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. You got to be careful in those places to know who you're working with
Yes.
because that also, if somebody comes in with, um, should we say, a different intent,
Mm-hmm.
then that can be a little mud in the water that you might want to clear up. But don't worry about that right now. That would be figured out by the coven as a whole. So that's not a
Yeah.
problem. But just to say that there are so many different possibilities out there, and don't worry so much, is this right or is this wrong? It's more, is it you?
Yes.
Is it suited to you and is it getting you where you want to go? Um, that's key. Now I would say, just briefly, if it comes to blood magic of any kind, tread really carefully on that one. I kind of advise against it on a whole, simply because it's so potent, so powerful that you need to be able to handle what you unleash. So, my recommendation is, particularly if you're in the beginning stages, which you probably are listening
Mm.
to us, then don't go play with that. Even if it's your blood, even if it's, from a steak that you're about
Mm.
to eat, like whatever it is, just don't mess with it. Don't go there right now because it's very strong. That's like the ultimate. essence, if you will, is someone's blood, uh,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mess with it. No.
Hmm. There is I'm literally being asked for a moment of silence to let that sink into people.
Okay.
So what I would say, if you're listening, pause the episode. You want to set a timer for 60 seconds or whatever, or take as much time as you need to contemplate what Michaela just said about this topic. There's for some reason there's a thing about blood magic that right now I'm like watching a bunch of spirits squirm and stuff right now at the thought of the topic.
Well, that's like when you do regular magic, which is really okay. Anybody who's actually a witch listening to this is going to say, "What did you just call it?" But come on, work with me here. The thing about magic that you would normally encompass and encounter is it's a request. It's a sort of companion action, right? You are joining forces with the universe forces and you're asking for assistance. When you get to blood magic, you are freaking demanding it. And
Mm,
it is a different level of intention. It's a different level of interaction. And I assure you, the spirit world is way stronger than you are in your physical form. So I would not go knocking on that door and expect to handle what you see when you open it.
well, that's the thing, right? Um, as we say about free will and intention, what you're saying when you're willing to give up blood
Mm.
is a lot.
Oh, it's in so many directions. I mean, some witches are vegan precisely because they don't want to touch anything to do with blood. Um, and it's not the same as, I'm PETA, pro all animals, da da da. It's not that. It's I don't feel I can handle that
Mm,
blood element coming my way. And so going vegan is one way to deal with that. Vegetarian is I'll stick my toes in, but I'm not going any further. And somebody
yeah.
who eats meat is either unaware or they've decided that no, I can handle this.
Mm,
And I've been
that's
all at some point. I've been vegan, I've been vegetarian, and I currently do eat meat. So I've been all at different points. And it's interesting that the energy that you receive from around you is different depending on how you are showing up with your food as
mhm.
well.
Yep.
Food magic comes up once again, Danielle.
Yep.
But it's
I
so
was going to mention
different,
it.
and your intention there is different, right? If you're doing the whole I'm going to eat vegan because you're all bad people eating animals, then your intention isn't centered well. It's
Mm,
off. It's in a space of judgment. And when you're judging others for what they do and you're kind of doing something at them, then that's not your best intention. It's not your best energy use, right? It's kind of like the straw got bent. It's
yeah.
it's it's off a little. You're kind of in the right direction, but not finally. If you're vegan because you're very clear that my body likes vegan and this is, I want to be clear of blood when I'm doing my magic, that or other blood, obviously you want your own, then
Yeah.
your intention is different and it's straighter, it's more clear.
Yeah. Okay. I never ever want to go down this route, but this seems to be the episode for it. So
Whatever it is.
sacrifices,
Okay.
blood. To my understanding of sacrifice, it's a lot of it is intention, but there's also what you're sacrificing. And like I said, right, if someone doesn't want to be, we've kind of discussed the idea before, where the person you're sacrificing someone else's energy, and if that person doesn't want to give that energy, there is like,
Well, it brings up a certain
yeah,
response, right?
well,
What's
but
behind that door is
yeah,
going to include that.
I think I'm gonna start with the kind of the hierarchy of sacrifices, right? if you put your effort, like if you put your effort into something and then you offer it as a sacrifice, okay, so that's like the kind of the no, yes, yes, no, yes. There's a plants are a weird thing. Plants are a weird life form. But basically, the minimum sacrifice you can do is give of your time or give of something you created. I don't mean your kids. I mean like you made a craft or you drew a picture, and then you sacrifice that. So
Uh-huh.
you look at how much energy you're investing in each new thing you do, and how much you're giving up of yourself for it. Because then, like you sacrifice a small animal, but that small animal is still a living thing. But what you're giving up is that small animal may not mean anything to you. Like if your house is infested with mice and then you grab a mouse, I'm going to sacrifice this to do a thing. Well, you're not giving very much of yourself up for that one, other than your desire to get rid of the mouse at that point, right? Because as you go up, right, and then well, human sacrifices, especially for human beings, that's all the energies that's being exchanged there. There's no good. I, I can't, in my mind, see a good reason for a human sacrifice other than the human being sacrificing themselves. That's different. The more energy you can give out, like, because generally, right, the sacrifices, the more energy you can put into whatever you want to do, the better your effect, right? And like I said, intention. So, and just as a kind of an aside for those people looking at from a Christian perspective, the sacrifice of Jesus, Jesus' big sacrifice wasn't that he gave up his life. His big sacrifice is that he was a demigod. And a demigod giving up their life, that's a lot of power versus a normal human being giving up their life. So the amount of spiritual energy you can invest in your sacrifice is the kind of how I've always understood sacrifices when I started looking into it. Anyways.
And again, intention comes
Yeah.
into this hugely. So a little while ago, I used to work with this one kiddo who has autism. And one of the things that we would do together that she loved to do was go to a rabbit farm and look after all the rabbits. And we would put a lot of work in with these rabbits, the two of us, because it was a happy space.
Right.
But the farmer would, of course, kill and eat the rabbits as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we toyed with the idea, her family and I, of taking her to the farm to see that in action. And we finally
Mm-hmm.
decided that no, she didn't have the capacity to handle. She thought she did, but we kind of figured she probably didn't have the capacity to handle that. But what I appreciated about that particular farmer was each rabbit, she would take the rabbit and talk to it and very lovingly stroke the rabbit and thank it. And, she was very, very aware of each and every rabbit. None of what she did was automatic or, mundane. It was like she wasn't just like, boom, there you go, one rabbit dispatch, boom, there's another one. No, no, no. She paid attention to each and every one, and she was the same with the chickens. And this might sound like it's not important, but actually it is because her intent was to do what she had to do as quickly as she could,
Yes.
but she felt it. She didn't just do that thing. And of course the rabbits and the chickens were being eaten. They weren't
Yes.
being wasted in any way, but she felt it. She was aware of what she was doing. And that made a huge difference to me in being in that space because the energy in that farm was not one of death and stress.
Mm-hmm.
It was circle of life kind of energy.
Yes.
And she stepped very gently into that circle of life and took her part. And so that's the difference between a sacrifice, which you would say this animal is,
Mm-hmm.
because she's doing it with such intention and love,
Right.
right? There's even love in there. Whereas when you go to a slaughterhouse, that's just a mechanical,
Yes.
there's no input, there's no it's devoid of
Yes.
humanity in that situation. And that comes through in what you eat.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's why when I said, I think I just invented food magic, even though some of that was jokingly, it
No,
it
it actually
really,
is a
really
thing.
ties into like you're never escaping magic, no matter what kind of life you think you lead. because the me French accent, the mechanics are the same when you kill an animal. Like you like I jokingly said this to my nephews. I said like you could literally have haunted food because of the way the animal was dispatched, or the way the animal was culled, or however
Well,
you want to.
actually you do,
Okay.
and even if you're not looking at spiritually haunted,
Yeah.
which it could be, right? But we can't prove or disprove that one. But
Hmm.
what you can prove is the stress hormones and the
Yes.
antibiotics and the sickness that the
Hmm.
animal had at that time. You were getting that.
Yes.
So if you're getting these things that we can tell by lab tests, now you step from the mundane, which is that,
Hmm.
into the spiritual world. Why would you think that wasn't present as well? So, yeah, of course you can. You're taking in what that animal gave at its last moment.
Yeah.
So if the animal is being loved on and thanked, and it's, of course it's not happy. None of us are like, yay, here we go. That's not, our connection to the physical world takes that element away. But that animal's not stressed. That animal certainly wasn't fed antibiotics and nonsense. It was fed good stuff. I know, I used to feed him. And it was well looked after, happy rabbits. As far as you can tell, rabbits don't really smile, but you can tell from, their general condition.
Yeah.
And so that's a world of difference. There's no stress in that animal. So you're not eating those hormones, you're not eating stress, you're not eating disease,
Yeah.
and you're not eating an animal that's had the wrong food, which is important as well,
Yeah.
because food magic
Hmm.
works the way down the chain. So if you're
Hmm.
feeding your animals the wrong food, then you've messed up on that level. And now that goes back up the chain, and everything that eats from there gets to ingest that. So
Mm.
actually, I think we need to, either together, separately, whatever, somehow, some way, we need to put out some like food magic books, or we got to
Yeah.
do something with this. This
Well,
is coming up strongly.
yeah. Well, what came to me that every meal you eat is a life expanding ritual.
It can be, or it can be life contracting,
Yeah.
depending on whether you're eating the processed crap or not.
Yeah, because it's literally life magic, right? It's really life magic made to enhance, or, you know, what's the opposite of enhance? Unenhance? No, I forget now.
Enhance or detract?
Possibly. So yeah, but like in all honesty, I want the listeners to think about this. Every time you eat, you're literally performing a magic ritual to extend your life or to have an effect on your life.
It is part of a miracle, right? Because your
Right.
cells are taking what you eat,
Mhm.
and they're like literally running a program that says, okay, I think I'm going to make some of your spleen out of this, and that'll go to the brain, and this bit's going to go to your eyes,
Mhm.
and you're literally replacing yourself continually. You are repairing and replacing. And when that element of magic is muddied, it's messed
Right.
with, it's impure. That's a really good word for this. When it's impure,
Yeah.
what happens is you start getting things like cancers coming up.
Yeah.
And look at the cancers we have now. I have lost so many people in recent years to a surprising number of rare cancers. Now,
Yeah.
what? Why is that a thing? And by the
Yeah.
way, the industry that does all the cancer cure stuff, I'm going to say something fairly controversial here, I think, which is, do stop sending your money to them, because they have the cure for cancer. It doesn't suit them to use it because of funding. Trillions and trillions of dollars have gone into this. And yet, some guy in a lab decades ago can figure out how to sort out polio, right?
Yeah.
Like, they have the cures. They totally do. And I was getting some tests done myself the other day.
Mhm.
The woman doing the test said, did you know that there are tests available, blood tests, for men to discover if they have prostate cancer or
Mhm.
if they have any genitourinary cancers?
Right.
She said there is also a blood test for women that can detect uterine cancer
Hmm.
and so on. Again, reproductive system cancers.
Right.
The insurance companies in the US will pay for the men's test. They will not pay for the women's test.
Yeah.
So nobody ever does the women's test. Now, if I don't know, but if that's not where the issue lies, that kind of place,
Yeah.
it's sending your money to all these, run for breast cancer, walk for
Hmm.
prostate cancer, whatever it is. It's a smoke screen again. It's a huge funding funnel.
Yeah.
You are not advancing anything by sending your money there. They already have it. They're not using it.
Yeah. I'm going to tack on to what you say because I know there's going to be some people going, aha, I knew it. They're not the ones doing conspiracies. And it's like, listen, I love me a good conspiracy. Don't get me wrong. But this is stuff out in the open that people aren't bothering to hide.
Oh yeah,
Or
you
maybe
can go
they can't
find
through
this.
regulation, but when you hide something in the open is sometimes it's the best way to do it, right? Uh, in
Hmm.
my in the episode that I had done in the first season about your senses, you literally load your senses ahead of time. It helps you as a predator to identify your prey. You
Hmm.
look for very specific things, and so your brain prioritizes that imagery or those cues. But what happens is that you ignore other cues that you should be looking for sometimes. That's why,
Absolutely.
animals have camouflage to to not give away those cues. And I had used the banal example of the mailbox, right? You're expecting a
The
blue and
red and
red
yellow.
kind of, you know, roundish box when the actual thing is a yellow pole.
Hmm.
But you completely ignore the pole. And that's basically what's happening right now. We're looking at like company like was it you that posted the pink products? Like, somebody posted that I seen today, talking about all the boxes that are pink for breast cancer awareness. And
I
it's
did not, but I will
and
if
it's
I find
all products
it.
that give you cancer.
Yes, exactly. And I did post one on the American Heart Association because if you
Yeah,
pay the American Heart Association, they'll give you their agreement, their little seal of approval. It means nothing. We're
yeah.
told these things are important, but they aren't. It's another smokescreen, it's another
And
curtain
it's not
with a
and it's
picture
not hidden.
painted on
That's the
it.
thing. It's not hidden. You can literally go and look it up.
Oh yeah, it's
Look at
right
the
there.
ingredients.
And what I
What are
just said about the
those ingredients do?
tests.
And it's yeah.
What I
That's what I
just said
mean.
about
Like
the tests, you can look them up.
yeah,
They're there. It's not hidden and it's not difficult to find. You just have to know it's there to find it, right? That's the thing.
yeah. So
But
that's what I mean, right? We're not peddling conspiracies here. We're not telling you there's a cabal of people behind the scenes doing something. It's right there out in the open. You just have to
oh
look
yeah,
at it and look for and get yourself out of your preconceived notions and just look at the details.
I did post one this morning, right before coming onto the podcast with you, about pet food and
Yeah.
splitting ingredients. Now, the food industry does this to human food as well, but in pet food, the companies know that the owner wants to have meat as the first
Yeah.
ingredient because this is a carnivore after all. I'm
Mhm.
thinking dogs
Yeah.
specifically. So meat will be the first ingredient, but then you can look at the next three ingredients and there'll be pea protein, pea flour, pea something else.
Mhm.
So what that tells you is peas are actually the first ingredient, but they
Yeah.
split it into three different components, and that brings it down on the list.
Yeah.
This is why animals these days get diabetes
Mhm.
where they did not used to. This is not something a dog needs to get. For goodness sakes, if you're feeding a dog dog food, it should not end up with diabetes. This is not a
Right.
natural progression
Yeah. There's nothing in meat that
unless
gives you diabetes. So yeah.
unless the food's full of stuff it doesn't need to
Yeah.
eat. Are peas a natural food for a dog? No, they're not. When do they eat those in the wild? No, they're not. But it's probably the first ingredient. So if you look at your dog food, look at the label and see how many different ways have they split a particular ingredient. It could
Yeah.
be grains as well. Dogs
Mhm.
don't need grains. That's Nobody needs grains,
I was gonna say
honestly.
we don't need grains.
Nobody needs them, but it will often be in dog food, and this is one of the things that contributes to them getting illnesses. So the stuff that we say, to the best of my abilities, I don't say anything that I don't know, like that I haven't found the source of and so on, um, because there are plenty of conspiracy theories. But just think on the cancer search, just think how much money would you say has gone into that over the last few decades and continues to go into it and the big shiny centers and all the rest of that. And yet, if you want a specific type of treatment that's a more natural treatment, for example, they won't give it to you. I have a friend who has this experience. She had cancer and she had to go kind of off label to get
Yeah.
her treatment. And she's now in a battle with the insurance companies for $250,000 because her treatment worked.
Mm.
And what they wanted to do to her would have left her in a very poor state. But the money is in what they wanted to
Yeah.
do and not in what she was looking for.
Yeah.
So you got to follow the money. And I'm sorry, but these people don't have your back. So when you're funding these sort of Ride for breast cancer, et cetera,
Mm.
they have all the information they need. They truly don't need more. They got it.
Well,
What we need is the money to go into lobbying against the food industry. Like I said, I'm kind of channeling my energy in that direction at the moment because
yeah.
it's important. Food magic, it's important.
Yeah. Like I said, treat it. You know, there was another part to that too that came up while you were talking about it was the because all these things are changing and all these things are changing how people view the world, you're losing a lot of old traditions, right? And we can't go back. So when I mentioned it as what you're doing is a life extension or a life enhancing life, however, what you're eating, that ritual is a new way of bringing people together because now you're participating in the ritual as well when you have group meals and you have. So really, you should. Okay, this one is for the women out there who's you know everyone should be involved in the cooking and the preparing of the food because then everyone is part of the ritual. Everyone has put in their energy. Everyone has made peace with the food things they're about to eat. Everyone has bonded themselves to the food they're going to eat at this point. So going forward, when you have your meals, make everyone involved.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's got to be a good thing because you're bringing more attention to the food as well
Right.
as intention. The one of the problems that's coming up these
Mm-hmm.
days in society generally is the push marketing wise for people to eat their food in the car while they drive, right? Like go through the drive through and here you go, you can hand it to your kids and there's everybody eating food in the car.
Right.
The car is not a dining room. The
Nope.
car is not a place where you can focus on what you're eating. Not if you're driving. And if you're sitting there, chances are you're also either staring out the window or you've got your earbuds in or
Yeah.
something like that, but you're not paying attention to anything. Ideally, the driver's paying attention to the road, but nobody's paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to the food. So,
Right.
are you eating more than you need? Do you actually like the taste of what you're eating? Really? Do you? Or is
Mm-hmm.
it the sauce that's put on top? Like, what's the quality of what you're eating? Does it look like anything that occurs in nature at any point? Like, can you recognize what you're eating as food? We don't look. And if it's wrapped up in a wrapper, like think burrito type deal,
Yeah.
if it's wrapped up in something, you're not even seeing it. You're
Right.
just kind of holding it on the wrapper and eating it. That is as far from eating food as you can get while still chewing on something. Like
Yeah.
it's not what we need to do. If you want food magic in your life, that ain't it. That is,
Right.
that's an abomination, honestly. It's not okay. It's something that if you're on a long road trip and you don't have
Mm-hmm.
time and it's a one-off, sure, you have those options. But if this is your daily routine, then I invite you to revisit that and see where you can find the time to live like a human being and
Right.
actually eat food at home and, pay attention to your food. Again, I've heard from people, well, I don't have time for that. I've got a busy life. Okay, you need to rework your life. because this
Yes.
is your one shot. And if you don't have time to eat, you lost your priorities.
Hmm.
That is a problem.
Yeah.
In fact, if you don't have time to eat, why are you even listening to magic? Because you don't have time for anything if you don't have time to eat.
Yeah.
So, don't worry about the rest of the rituals and stuff. If you can't even pay attention to your food, don't you are not
Well,
there yet.
so I want to add a couple of things here. One, I want to add to what I said earlier. For those of you, because okay, we're in a day and age where usually the men aren't going hunting anymore, so they should be in the preparation of the food. They should be part of the ritual. But I'm going to put it like this: if you're a hunter or someone who, in the very least, is the one killing the animal, you guys, that's your part of the ritual to bond with the animal, to appease the animal, so that the food goes forward unhunted and not loaded with with the hormones and stuff that kick in. So that's part of your job. So even if you're not going to, you've done something, you've participated in the preparation. So, but your part is to then do that pre-cooking part of, especially if like even while you're butchering or before you kill it, do the thing, give that animal peace in some way or form, even if only in spirit, right? Because, and it's, I'll put it this way, it might seem counterintuitive to some people, but if you die in a way that's natural, you tend to accept it as, the circle of life
Hmm.
versus something that's really made forced and made to terrify you, you know. When actually there is a study on how you die. Your brain shuts down, just like a computer shutting down. So if you're allowed to die, if you're not completely obliterated, your brain actually shuts down as a process. So just keep that in mind when you're hunting or when you're slaughtering an animal. If you can give it as much time to die and accept its death, then your food won't be haunted and you'll get the most out of it from a magical perspective anyways and from a spiritual perspective. And right, without some certain hormones kicking into it.
Yeah, and something came up as you were talking, and that is, I was just thinking, I know a number of women who go hunting. I know one who's heading off to Alaska for the hunting season to go get moose and what have you. Like I know a number of women that go hunting and they do the preparation stuff too.
Right.
And the reason I'm sounding kind of curious about that is because I mentioned in a previous podcast that we have shifted in society without it being really noticed, that women are doing much more of the providing
Mm-hmm.
than the men.
Yep.
It is changing. And there's some societies that haven't moved in that way yet, but they're going, they're moving. And women are doing more of that. And it only just this moment became apparent to me that even in hunting, I know women who go hunting. I know more women than I know men that go hunting. And that's not to say that that's the general picture. That's just to say in my environment, that's what I know.
Right.
I am not one of those that go hunting simply because I've never been taught to hunt.
Right.
And so I don't have the stomach for it, honestly. It's just a function of how I was raised. So no judgment on that one way or the other. But I do know women that go hunting these days.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? It is
Yes.
shifting. Everything is shifting.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's the
where
thing,
that
right?
ends up.
Mm-hmm. There's a female ascension happening,
Hmm.
and we and like and what we're how to word this properly. We're not looking for the pendulum swing effect.
Right.
We're looking for balance. So as women start to come in ascension, it's not to come into ascension to dominate men. It's to come into
No, that's not the
ascension
point.
to balance it.
Well, see, if it was a thing of power,
Right.
it would be more obvious. It would be more featured, if you will, in people's conversations. But
Mm.
it isn't. Nobody's talking about it. It's just a quiet revolution, if you will, that's happening. And not all women particularly want it to go that way
No.
because the other part, the all the household stuff isn't moving as fast. And so women are getting loaded with all of it in many cases.
Well,
So it's an interesting shift.
yes. And this is the importance, right? Which is why I brought up if you're not the hunter and you're not the one slaughtering the animal, you're participating in the rest of the ritual by
Hmm.
because here I'm not saying men or women because was it when you acquire power, you need to learn how to use power. So that's the responsibility falling on women is to understand the power they're acquiring. But the thing with men is you have to understand that you're sharing power. In what was I going to say? I don't know. I'm going to try to word this in a way as best I can word it. It's not going to be as eloquent as I want, and I'm sure Michaela will have a better way of wording it. But
We'll
in
see.
desperate times, the male ascension happens because of the nature of what we consider male energy and how it functions. But it's never meant to be permanent. But one of the problems we've had is that when we try to keep it permanent, then that's where women start to descend. So we
Mm.
don't get that balance. It is literally a seesaw, right? Or a scale.
Well, I
If you
think,
try to let this ascend too much, then the other side descends.
well,
Like I'm not trying to put it as a zero sum game, but
that's also because when men want to hold on to power,
yeah,
they can only do it by squashing women.
right.
So it's when they stop squashing women or
Mhm.
do it less, the less they do it, the more the women can actually stand up tall and say,
Yeah,
okay, right, now you're off my back. I can actually do some things.
right.
But it's, and again, there's no judgment here. Like that's a
Mhm.
distraction as well.
Yes.
Doing the whole men versus women
Hmm.
fight. No, no, no. Just be observant as to what is actually happening. Not what you think it
Yes.
ought to be, not what it was, but just what do you see of the people you know who is in what role.
Hmm.
And is it being shared, or is somebody carrying a heavier burden than they need to? And again, you don't have to do anything about it. It's just observation.
Yeah.
This is what it is. But I know many women who are the breadwinners, and I know many women who are comparatively who are hunters. And it's just interesting to me that this is evident, and yet, particularly in the US, and again, this is coming out after the election, but there is one party who doesn't need to be named who wants to bring in Project 2025,
Yeah.
which would put women back into the dark ages pretty
Hmm.
much and gives men control over so many aspects of women's lives. But
Right.
I gotta say, dudes, this is like your boat sailed centuries ago. Like this is not the time
Hmm.
for you to be able to do that. It
Right.
won't go well. It's not going to go without a very, very big fight because this is not the energy now. You're trying to push down something that's rising, and that's not
Hmm.
gonna work.
Well,
So
that's the thing.
it's interesting stuff.
That's
Interesting.
why I'm focused on that lately because it's like the it is a time for an ascendancy of female, but again, not ascendancy to the point of dominance, but ascendancy back to balance.
Well, there's no
Yeah.
oppression needed.
Right.
That's the point. This is an ascendancy that happens
Mm.
when oppression is removed.
Yes.
It's not, it doesn't need to be replaced. And I don't think women are interested, generally speaking, in doing that.
Yes,
It
I will say
serves
that.
no purpose. It serves absolutely no purpose. Um, so it's not a feature. Like men with fragile masculinity might be worried about that, but it really isn't a thing, guys. It just isn't a thing. The question is not worrying about what she's doing, but looking at what you're doing
Hmm.
and figuring out, are you doing enough? Are you doing the right things? And are you stepping up?
Yes.
Because you
You
have
know,
an active role. It's an active role, and nobody's role is better than another person's.
yeah,
They all add up, hopefully, to a harmony.
you've hit the nail on the head. The harmony that will be achieved right now is everyone being mindful of themselves and what they're doing,
Mhm.
and not so much like
Yeah, don't worry about what the other people
don't
are
worry about other
doing.
people.
Look at
Yes, what
yourself.
is it? You're right to throw a punch ends at my face, but until I throw a punch, don't worry about it. Right now, worry about yourself. Make yourself strong, make yourself secure. The rest will come up. The rest will, sorry, the rest should be doing the same. And it's weird because, like, not weird. we'll go back to politics for a second. In politics, we've messed up what every political thing means.
Hmm.
That even just saying everyone is responsible for their own thing, I'm not worried about this happening, but I want people to be aware of something because the people who are quick to call people out to say, oh, you're alt right, they're going to hear that and say, oh, well, no, that's the alt right. I'm like, well, no, taking responsibility for yourself is across every party, it's across every philosophy. It's how you get people there that differs with the different political philosophies. Yes, if you want to look at the outliers who are there to sow discord, yes, they're going to make that sound like it's incredibly terrible thing to say, but it's not. It's the literally you have to have that balance of your own awareness of yourself and taking care of yourself. Which, if I say take care of yourself from that perspective instead of saying take responsibility, then both sides of the I don't want to use the word grifters, but people who are distorting the political definitions, right?
Hmm.
Now they have nowhere to go because if I'm saying take care of yourself, then what is supposed to be the left will say, take care of yourself, or like take time for yourself. But if I say take care or take responsibility, then people who propose to be will say, yes, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's like it's neither of those things, and it's both of those things.
But here's the interesting thing. There are many layers to that.
Yeah,
And in politics, let's just look at those because you mentioned all right first. So
yeah,
let's go to that one first. And you mentioned them in connection with looking after yourself, right? And
yeah.
I'm think you were thinking
Mm.
about, the whole pull yourself up by the
Right, bootstrap.
bootstraps. You
Yeah,
got to be a self-made person. Yes, but the layer, and it's a very deep layer that's just under that surface, is but we're going to control how and if you can
yes.
do it. And only
Hmm.
certain people can do it under certain conditions, and women are not on that list. So
Yeah,
there's a huge amount of control right under that veneer of with a party who wants less government. It's interesting because they say they want less government and you need to pull yourself up by your
yeah.
bootstraps, and yet they want
Hmm.
to put controls in that would stop you from being able to make yourself
Oh yeah.
whatever you want to be, right? Like they're going to stop you right under that veneer. Now on the left,
Mm.
let me just balance this one out because on
Hmm.
the left, they're the party of, we're here for everybody's rights and we're going to make sure that, freedom for all and let's have universal health care and whatever else.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But you have to fit in, just like in Canada. This is one of
Mm.
my bugbears with
Yeah.
Canada. You have to fit in to the right demographic. You're
Yeah.
only okay if you're the right person. So, right now, it's politically correct to be very sort of mindful of things native, right?
Hmm.
And I'm going to say that's still pretty damn superficial, but okay. They
Yeah.
pay lip service to that. If you're Jewish, you have a problem in either country and nobody's protecting you. Now, the left are some of the worst perpetrators of this, and they are very, very problematic if you don't fit in the right demographic. So if you're black, you want to vote left. If you're an old white guy, you want to vote right. If you happen to be Jewish, you're shafted because neither side have your back. So they each have a veneer of who they stand for. But when you look underneath, it's the opposite. And isn't
Mm.
that interesting that both
Well,
sides
that's the
have
thing.
that? And Canada has this, we're so nice, and everybody says
Mm.
Canadians are nice and it's nice and friendly. You have some of the worst anti-Semitism going out there. So it's okay if you're a certain demographic, it's not okay if you're another. And that's, I'm going to say, symptomatic. It's a symbol even of a much greater problem that veneer is no longer covering. It is cracking seriously, and the passive aggressive approach that's been passing for polite and friendly is becoming obvious. Literally, veils are falling everywhere.
Yes, well, that's What was I gonna say?
That
Okay,
was a lot.
I'm gonna
So,
hold on for a minute because whatever I was gonna say is now being taken away. So
well, I did just throw a lot out there, but look at it and see, okay, recognize the veneer because that's what we're all looking at, but what
yeah,
actually are they there for underneath? And we don't have a good option right now. Let me just
right.
say that. We do not have a good option.
Yeah. That goes back to the pay attention to, because everything right now is being done to encourage you to set your cues to miss the obvious of what you're
Yes.
looking for.
Yeah.
It's oh, look, we're doing research for cancer. Never mind, one of the reasons why it happens so much now.
Uh-huh.
Don't look at that part. Look at this part. Look how much money we're donating to cancer. And
Well, there
then,
are so
okay,
many
look at how
doctors.
much. Well, I'll put it to you this way for breast cancer, right? So mammograms still happen, right? But
Mhm.
yet, I remember even more than 20 years ago, I remember reading an article about how they're working on a blood test instead of having to do mammograms.
And that blood test's been out for more than 12 years.
Right.
But insurance companies in the US won't pay for it. And I don't know that it's even available in
Well, in
places like
Canada, people still get letters for mammograms, and I'm like, there's a blood test available. Why are you like mammograms? To me, first of all, to my understanding of mammograms, this is literally how you get cancer. How you can give someone cancer. You're
well,
squishing the tissue, exposing it all to X-rays. I'm like,
it's not the most fun procedure anybody can
no.
go for. But the thing is, the blood tests are so straightforward to do, and yet they don't cover them, they don't offer them, they don't even ask you if you'd like to pay for it. It's not put out there as an option.
That's
So
what I'm saying. Even in Canada, it's not the default option if it is an option.
it's not an option. They don't tell you it's there, but you can find it. Go look it up and you'll find that it's there. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a thing. And it's a symptom of all the other stuff that's going on. And basically at the bottom of it, it's money. It's who makes money. Everybody's desperate to make money now. And I mean, it's always been the way, but now it's frenetic pretty much. It's like it's not enough to have enough. You have to have more than enough. And there's also this perception that money doesn't grow on trees. Yes, it does. It actually does. So it's not a question of there's not enough to go around.
Mm,
It's more where is it being funneled and why
yeah.
isn't it going around? And this is typically because you've got some very impressive looking funnels, such as cancer research,
Mhm.
such as the food industry sucking it all up and feeding you crap. Um, there's so many places where this stuff is being used and abused. I mean, insulin, the guy who discovered insulin and what it does for you gave it away, the patent.
Mhm.
There's no the medical companies that make insulin, they don't have to pay anything for that patent. It's free.
Right.
But the cost of insulin is staggering. And some people in the US still die because they can't afford their insulin or
Yeah.
they dose split. So they'll
Mm.
have insulin one day and not the next because they can't afford to keep having it and they die. Young
It's
people.
funny
It's like
talking about
we've lost it. We've lost the
yeah.
plot.
So talking about because you brought it up and it reminded me of something, the insulin thing. So again, going back on they're trying to program your cues for you.
Mhm.
I've learned a lot of things through watching unrelated media about a topic. And one of the things I was watching a show about restaurants, and the owner of the restaurant, like they were still kind of a startup, but they were starting to get some success. He's diabetic and he couldn't afford his insulin. So part of the discussion while they were interviewing him, he talked about how, yes, he had to split his insulin, he had to do all these tricks, and he had to be careful. So about what he did, and it's like I had never heard of that before. I didn't realize it was a problem. I didn't realize it was expensive. But until I saw a show about a restaurant, and the guy was talking about he had issues, and
Mhm.
it was kind of the same thing where my understanding of slavery in the Americas was, the Europeans went into Africa and dragged the people out of there until I was watching a show on voodoo. And then the woman she was like, as far as voodoo she could be taken in America, she had gotten that height and now she had to go to Africa to learn from the Pope of Voodoo. And her big thing was, but his family basically made their living out of selling slaves to the Europeans. And I'm like, I've
Mhm.
never heard of this before. Hold on a second.
There were also a lot of Arab slave traders.
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, and that's the thing, right? And even we look South America, right? I was watching a show on tattoos, and they were just showing how a lot of those type of designs made themselves to Europe. And it was literally because, chiefs of tribes were giving away their best warriors for guns. They're like, oh, you like these? Okay, well, we'll have these guys killed. We'll dry the skins. You can bring those back to Europe. Give us
Mhm.
your guns. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. One of the things I've noticed is in a lot of things, people sell themselves out. People sell everyone else out.
And the thing is, human beings like to glorify one
Yeah.
group over another.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here to tell you that nobody gets out of here with a clean slate.
No.
Everybody has been a part of their own downfall, group wise. Everybody's got something that you can look at and say, if you didn't do that, it would be
Yeah.
different.
I'll
But
share you my favorite story. This is my absolute favorite story. It was oh, anyway, it was a long time ago, but it was on Canada Day, so the 1st of July. And there was an Indigenous storyteller telling a story of the broken arrow. And he was talking about how it was a meeting because the Europeans were coming over, and they did this meeting, and I guess the chief had a vision, and he got an arrow from each tribe, and he tied them together, and he says, as long as we stay together like this arrow, he says they can't beat us. He says, but the minute one arrow leaves, he says, then we'll be beaten. And I'm listening to this, and I'm yelling at the TV, shut up, shut up, shut up. Because what you're saying is it was divine providence that the Europeans came over and took the land in that story. All you
mm,
had to do was stay together and you could have kept the land. But because of your vision, you said all they need to succeed is for us not to stand together. So basically, you're saying is that you guys gave it away.
well, yes. I mean,
And you
that's,
broadcasted it on national television to all the white people
but
that it was
just
your
think
fault you
about
got
it.
taken over.
Just think about it. We have the story of Adam and Eve that
Yeah.
everybody loves to go. Now, by we, I mean Christians have that
Mm.
story. It's other religions don't acknowledge any original sin. It's not part of their canon.
Yeah, that's yeah.
But this is actually exactly what you just said, right? It's like if you eat the apple or if you don't. That basically you were given a choice of go this path and stay strong, or that's what weakness looks like, and this is what lies with
Yeah.
weakness. And this comes up in human history over and over again in so many places. It's not just that, but that was a
Mm.
great illustration of how sometimes you're given a really clear
Mm.
crossroads
Right.
and, the one I would liken it to today,
Mm.
unsurprisingly, is going to be the
Yeah.
anti-Semitism deal. So here's the thing. If Israel was to be annihilated, which is the stated agenda, that is what the
Right.
jihad is all about. So if Israel is to be annihilated, I can tell you right now that the forces that do that are coming for
Mm.
the West. They have said so.
Yeah.
So you have a choice. You can be the strong arrow and
Right.
stand with supporting a country that needs to survive. It's the size of Rhode Island. It's a tiny,
Right.
tiny country. And it's the only one in the world that has a Jewish symbol in its flag.
Right.
There are, I think, 22 Muslim flags, Muslim countries with
With the
symbols in
star
their
and the moon.
flags. Yes.
Yeah.
But there's only one Jewish state and
Mm.
it's tiny. So that one survives. That's your wall. That's your strong arrow. If that falls, literally all hell is going to break loose, and everybody gets to repent that at their leisure for whatever generations we have left. And again, you could say conspiracy theory, or you could just look at the situation and see the reality and listen to what's being said. Listen to what the people who are going to be doing this are telling you because they're not hiding it. It really is in plain sight. It's spoken in words of one syllable. Like it's not hidden in any way, shape, or form.
I think I have the assignment for this episode, even though the episode's not done. I think the assignment is really check what cues you've allowed other people to program into you. I want to be clear on that. So the cues, like I said, right? That's the cues you look for because our hunting nature, we program our senses to look for certain cues. That's why there's camouflage to throw off those cues we look for. So right now, what you're seeing is a lot of things are out in the open, but they're camouflaged by, oh, look at me, we're donating to this, or look at me, we back this person, or look. The examples are endless of right now how people are trying to
Hmm.
obfuscate things.
Yes,
So what I want you to do is pick one thing. Like we gave you the example of the food industry, right? Of the all these packages from Kellogg's to I'm trying to think, I don't have it in front of me, where they're saying, oh, breast cancer awareness, but yet look at their ingredients list and you'll find that a lot of these things cause breast cancer. So so that's what I want you to do for the assignment for this episode is to pick something that people have mentioned to you and you think is a conspiracy theory and look and see if there's anything actually out in the open and you've just been ignoring it because basically you didn't set yourself up the cues to look for those things because
it
you've let
doesn't fit you.
people
It doesn't
distract
fit
you.
your confirmation bias.
Yes, yes, that's a good way of wording it.
Yeah, we do it all the
Because
time.
that is another way of saying it, right? Confirmation bias. If I don't find the cues I want, then
Oh,
it
that's
doesn't.
exactly. You will find the ones that back up
Yeah,
what you believe.
right.
And we can do that all the time. So when you're trying to be clear and honest in what you're evaluating, you have to again slow down to speed up because if you go too quickly, your own confirmation bias gets in the way. But also evaluating your sources. So, for example, anybody that's still watching the news, um, got to tell you that's not news. That is a propaganda machine, and it
Yeah.
truly is. They don't hide it. If you want to look to the right, go to Fox. If you want
Yeah.
to look to the left, go to CNN, and they will
Yeah.
each tell you their own agendas. They do it all the time. I just
Mhm.
came across yesterday, CBS have been
Mm.
instructed from their on high that they are not allowed anymore to say Jerusalem and Israel in the same sentence. They are not
I
allowed
don't
to
know.
say Jerusalem is in Israel.
Mm.
Well, for the first time ever, I think, I was thinking to myself, maybe religion should still be in schools and then people would know their Bible and they wouldn't have a question about this. Like, this is just
Yeah.
insanity to me that this is coming up. But people who watch CBS for their news, even though they're not being told necessarily that these two things are separate, they're being given it that way and they're going to believe it that way. So, really, with this assignment that Danielle just gave you,
Mm.
please look at your sources. Where are you going?
Yeah.
And the news isn't it. It truly isn't it. They have an agenda that history, if the planet continues long enough, history is going to look back and the way you think of the Nazis,
Mm.
you're going to be on the wrong side of that if you're paying attention to the news.
Well, that's the thing, right? Most what is it? There was research done, I think, on this matter. Most people believe they wouldn't have sided with the Nazis, but the reality of the research is that probably
They would.
90% of people would have.
We're seeing today exactly how that would go, and it's been a shock to me to discover people that I thought were one way
Mm.
show up very differently, and it's that was a wake up call to me, right? Like that's something for me to look at and say, wow, another illusion. I had thought that this is what was going on, and I did not see what was underneath. So now I focus more on looking underneath to see, okay, this is the facade you present, but who are you really? Because typically that's not who we get to meet in the street. That's not who you get to talk to. And I
Mm.
have friends that, I thought I knew them and I thought they knew me. And then I discovered that, oh, that's actually not how it is. And so there's been a lot of necessary letting go that has had to happen
Mm-hmm.
and letting go of the illusion and the need to believe that that person is how I thought they were. That's on me. That's my lens, right? They are exactly who they've
Yeah.
always been. I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't see that. And maybe it wasn't brought out in them. That's the other thing. Because, sometimes you'll hear a person say, well, so and so did this thing, but that's not like them. And yeah, it is. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it. You just didn't know.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of that going on right now where people are doing things you wouldn't have expected it of them. And here they are. And that's your lens clearing. It
yeah,
doesn't mean anything about them other than you hadn't read them correctly. You didn't see underneath. And maybe they hadn't been poked.
yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like some things some people didn't know about themselves until put in a position.
Exactly.
Like because there's a lot of people I know who are well intentioned and otherwise seem pretty good. But COVID has really shown, and Donald Trump, frankly, has really shown.
Oh, he exposed an underbelly big time.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy, did he. Holy smokes. A
But
lot
even
of
here in
illusions
Canada,
were shattered. A lot of
yeah,
illusions.
even here in Canada, and it's like I'm like, okay, like I get it. American politics affects Canada very much because frankly, we're way too tied to the United States and our trade, our politics, and everything.
Which is
And
natural
so
because
what
it's next
happens
door.
happens here. At least a lesser version happens here, if nothing else. So, but when Trump came out, he basically tore everything apart.
Oh, he stirred the pot big time. Big
Like,
time. We got to see a lot of underbellies that people didn't realize were there. And of course, they always were. We just didn't see them. But
yeah.
he came along and pulled the bolt on the door and said, how about it? And people did.
It's funny because even people I've had all these really decent discussions with about, being reasonable about people and really seeing the big picture, all fell apart. Like when Trump showed up, like once put to the test, just gone.
Exactly. That's pretty much what I'm talking about, that experience. And I think a lot of us have had that for different things, different ways, whether it's gay rights,
Mm,
whether it's abortion, whether it's Israel, like it doesn't matter what the focus is,
mm,
it's happening everywhere. That people you thought were one way, and maybe they thought they were too, and now not. And I think your description of them falling apart was really good because that's definitely, yeah, you're just like, whoa, that whole thing I was looking at just crumbled, that facade, just like in the movies when they, expose a mummy and it crumbles to dust.
yeah,
It's like that's what we're seeing. And it's your lens, right? It's
yeah,
your understanding of what you're looking at and your beliefs about that person that are actually crumbling.
yeah.
And they're just coming forward as who they are underneath. And sometimes it's pretty damn ugly. But
Well,
like wow. Again, which raft are you going to be in? The
yeah.
dinghy or the ship?
Well, I'll actually say this. I'll actually give this a positive spin. Sometimes what it exposed, like in some people, was wounds they've never dealt with,
Yes.
and it manifested in things I never expected to see from those people. But I recognized it as wounds that were never dealt with. So, I mean, which tells you, right? How do people deal with things when they're wounded? How do they behave? Because and that's not necessarily how they would normally behave when everything is okay. But when shit hits the fan, it's like, this is how you behave. So now I know, like, because I've always been very open minded, and it's weird. I'll put this. This will both make a point, but this part will be an aside. I've had a lot of situations in my life where I'm friends with a diverse group of people, to use the parlance, and people will say, "Why are you hanging out with that person?" And I've always said, the first person who tells me who to hang out with is the person I no longer hang out with. You
Right.
can offer that someone did something and you don't like it, you know, but the minute the person tells me who to hang out with, that's it.
Hmm.
So, and I'll warn people because I know sometimes people I know will get together and they completely have different opinions. So I'm saying, like, first person who tells me what to do is the first person gone.
Well, I have friends
Yeah.
who are staunch Trump supporters.
Right.
I have friends who are staunch left
Mm-hmm.
supporters. And I know there's a bit of difference in how I said that, but this is literally how the difference
Right.
is right now. I have friends on both sides, and I wouldn't put them together in a room because I don't
Right.
think it would go very well. But they still have qualities that, are perfectly fine, and I'll discuss that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just interesting to see the layers. The question
Yeah.
for the listener really is, how are you going to hold that? How are you going to look at that? Um, I knew someone once who was a certain way, and we would help each other out an awful lot. And the one would step up for the other all the time, didn't even have to be asked necessarily. And then the other person suffered a loss, a very close loss,
Mm-hmm.
and she changed dramatically how she showed herself to the world. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the changes was that she became very selfish to a point where she would literally say, "Well, do I want to do that thing? Does that suit me or not?"
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't matter what the other person needed. And that has wasn't how it used to operate.
Right.
And so I had a choice to make when this became obvious that this was going to be a new way of being.
Mm-hmm.
My choice was, I accept the person the way they now are, and I don't look to them for anything.
Mm-hmm.
The dynamics of the relationship have changed, and I'm no longer looking for assistance, or the friendship is done because it changed hugely from where it was. So what am I going to do with that? And I decided consciously, okay, I accept that this is how this person
Mm-hmm.
is now, and so I'm going to deal differently so that this isn't a problem. And that worked. And in some cases you can do that. And in other cases, not so much. Depends on what the change is, right? And how can
Yeah.
you be with that? How can you change how you look at that?
Well, that's what I was gonna say, right? But you covered it. Yeah. When you know people for who they are, like, because no one is perfect, right? Like,
No, of course not.
so even me, like, to me, I would expect, if your friendships with me, know what my strengths and weaknesses are, because if you come to me expecting a certain thing that I can't give, you know, you're out of luck. Not because I don't want to help you, but it's literally not my thing, and you would really be better served going somewhere else.
Right.
And so understanding your friendships that way is very important. And not judging, like I'm not going to sit here and make, well, actually I might, depending, but I am trying to word that right. You don't invite your friend who hates the ballet to the ballet, but you invite your friend who loves the ballet to the ballet.
Right.
You know, you just
You don't have to
know,
change how that person is. You
right?
just accommodate how they are if that also works with something that you are. So you don't invite your friend who loves ballet to ballet if you hate ballet,
Right.
right? You direct them to somebody else who likes ballet, and that's
Yes.
great. But the point that I'm sort of putting out there that I think you're reflecting as well is go with the flow if the flow is still working, if it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yes.
is the friendship worth this to you, or is there an irretrievable breakdown? And if it's a breakdown, then that's actually a great time to look at your position and
Yes.
is it something that actually has to be a breakdown or not? Like, how is it on the importance scale? If you have a difference of opinion on politics, that superficially is not a big deal, honestly.
Right.
I don't think that's my reading of it. But what underneath that do you also have? And then I'm going to be looking at, is there an issue here that I cannot support?
Right.
Or are we still good? And as I said much earlier in the podcast, is people have different reasons for selecting the people they vote for. And they have different reasons for selecting the opinions that they have on things. And one person I know who's been a Trump supporter from the get-go is because she perceives that nobody else cares about her demographic.
Yes.
And he, at least for a while, sounded like he did, so close.
Yes.
And significantly, he said, I'm going to come in and bring changes.
Mm-hmm.
And people are starved for change at a
Mm-hmm.
political level. And so many people reasoned that anything is better than continuing.
Well, yes. Eh,
And valid points all. I,
mhm,
fair enough. I'm not gonna break a friendship over something like that because it's okay. It's your opinion. That's cool.
yeah.
Valid. Why not?
Well, not that I'm the biggest Bill Maher fan in the world, but he did once put it as if someone agrees with you 90% of the time, they're not your enemy just because they disagree with you on those 10%.
Exactly. And that's a really good point. I mean, if you agree on everything, then I'm going to say that's actually a red flag that you might want to
Yes.
look at and see, really? Do we? Or is somebody just going with it for the sake of non-confrontation or because they think they have to? Like, and I'm not saying it can't be true, but I'm just wondering, like, we have an issue with communication these days where people don't like to have conversations where they're not in full agreement. And that leads to a lot of problems because it doesn't alter the fact they're not in agreement. They just hide it now. And hidden
Mhm.
stuff it's going to come up eventually, right?
Yep. It's okay. So I'll share this story just to make life interesting and people can decide what they want.
Hey, if they're listening to this podcast, it's
Yeah.
already interesting.
People turn away allies a lot. I made the mistake one time I was on TikTok and I made the mistake of asking a person who was sharing their journey of healing a question. Up to that point, everything I had said on every response I ever done to that person, because I was following them, I said, "Oh, that's great. It's awesome. I really appreciate your journey. It's awesome. I'm learning stuff." And they had at some point shared something where they'd made a breakthrough, because they had an issue. I don't know if they were sexually assaulted or something like that, but they had like this real issue with men. And she had said one day, instead of letting herself fall into fear, she actually just talked to someone and they were really nice. And then she had made another video where she had really generalized like big time. And I had asked her, I says, you know, and I realized you can't text does not translate your thoughts very well, your emotions very well. And I said, are you tired of generalizing people yet? Because, she had seen generalizing was not the way to go in that one video and how wrong it was. And then she started doing it again. And I said, aren't you tired of generalizing? And then I got accused of making a disingenuous argument and I was, sexist and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, and she said, unfollow her. And I said, listen, I still appreciate everything I've seen in your videos and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? If you need me to unfollow you, that's fine. I'll do that. And I did. But it was like just the fact that I asked her, because she was generalizing, it was getting tiresome of all the generalizations, right? But she's on a healing journey. So I said, like, are you tired of this yet? Like, you must be. You've had your awakening. You've seen your moment where everyone is not what you think they are. And now you're going back to it.
But in her lens, that's an
Yeah.
accusation.
Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't have a discussion. She just went to the accusations right away and said, unfollow me. And I'm like,
Yeah, but that's her
actually, a legitimate
that's
question.
her lens,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we do with people is we see what we
Yeah.
expect to see. And when that what we expect to see is no longer there, that's when the problems come up. There's, some of those expressions like, you're not the person I know you could be.
Yeah.
Well, that's been heard in breakups a fair bit. And
Yeah.
it's, well, what the hell? Like, is that actually really a thing? Because that's not my problem if I'm not who you thought I was. I
Yeah.
can't help that because I have no control over how you see me. And
Right.
likewise, when we're looking at another person, they have no control over how you see them. What you can see, though, to bring it full circle back to intent,
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
you can see if they have intent to harm,
Right.
if they have intent to cause distress, or if they're genuinely, asking questions. If you take the time, if you slow down, then you can have that conversation and you can figure stuff out and you can get the intentions. And that makes a huge difference. If she'd got your intention behind the question, then there could have been more conversation about that. And she may have even had a moment where she said, whoa, I didn't even realize I'd gone back to generalizing.
Yeah.
Huh, look at that. I let my guard down.
Well, that's what I was expecting, right? And
But she didn't see it that way,
no.
and the conversation didn't happen because that's the stage we're at right now.
Yeah.
As a society, is those follow-on conversations don't happen. They don't have to. You just hit the block button,
Yeah.
and then you don't, because so much of our interactions are online. I've seen people, if you don't agree with this, unfollow me now or unfriend me now. And I'm like, what are you even ranting about?
Yeah.
What is your issue? And if they do it too many times, then I will, even if I agree with them, simply because the whining is not something I can tolerate. And I'm not interested to tolerate. But, again, that's my lens, right? If somebody keeps
Mhm.
putting this out there, they're looking for some kind of attention, but they're very needy with it. It's a lot of validate me, and it's like, no, I'm not here for that. I'm not going to validate you. Go validate yourself.
Yeah.
That's the most powerful form anyway. You don't need my validation. Who the hell am I? I'm somebody online. Why do you care?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Because I've actually encountered that a bunch of times where I've
Yeah.
been supportive. Because, like me, because, right, again, I'm curious. I do go into the world with curiosity. So when someone talks about something, and I end up following a bunch of lesbians because they did a bunch of funny stuff. And so then my feed gets more and more to the point where at some point my TikTok feed thought I was a lesbian for some reason because that's all I would get for a while. What I would run into is that at some point there was a lot of man hate, you know? And I'm like, but I've been nothing but nice and supportive to you guys, and I am straight, not complete, mostly white male. And now you guys, so when I ask you a question, when you do something like that comes out with hate, and I don't like, it's not a confrontation. I just ask like that question, like, are you tired of being like that now? Because you've shown that you're not like that, right? And then I'll get like well, all men are like this. I'm like, I've been nothing but supportive so far. So why are you making this accusation? Because that's what I'll ask. I'm like, what's with the accusation? Like, why are you accusing? Like, I fall in that group and I've been nothing but supportive to you. So, you know,
Mhm.
I've come across that a few times. No one has asked me to unfollow just that one person, but it's like you're accusing a group when you have examples in your own social media of people not like that.
Generalizations are easy to do. They sound plausible quite
Yeah.
often, simply because we're used to hearing them.
Yeah.
Um, and it's massively problematic because the
Yeah.
lines get blurred and people don't know what the hell they're talking about in the
Right.
end.
And just for people listening, although I would argue people listening to this podcast probably don't need this disclaimer, but I very well recognize that there are really shitty men out there.
Well, there
Like,
are really shitty people out there,
yeah, but that's right, shitty people.
and
That's why,
and it
like,
doesn't
people sometimes
matter.
ask me why my vocabulary is not very gendered a lot of times. I'm like, it's because it's everyone. It's not just one group, you
Well,
know?
the thing is, the gender is unimportant. Again, it's one of those smoke screens. It's one of those things that outside of the physical realm, it means nothing.
Right.
So, it's not the biggest feature. And
Well,
it's
that's the thing.
certainly it's not something that I consider um in my interactions with people. It's like I don't care. It
Yeah.
actually literally doesn't matter to me if you're male, if you're female, like if you're gender fluid, if you're whatever, like I really honestly don't care. I understand that some groups have less rights than others,
Yeah.
and I'm in one right now. So,
Well,
I get
yeah.
that point. You get that point. You're in one. It's like that's a thing, but the generalizing is part of the problem.
Right. I was going to say to continue on because I'm with you. I've been using non-gendered language for a long, long time, even before it became the thing to do. Because one of the things when I talk about something, even when I talk about relationships, like if I have a girlfriend, I don't say her. I just say the person or whatever. When I'm talking to someone who doesn't know, like, who doesn't know that person, because I want people to be able to take it into their own life, in their own situations. So if I'm vague in that sense, like, because like if I'm talking to someone who's gay, like, and they have the same issue, I've cut away them having to do work because they can just straightly visualize on themselves. People can do it, but not every, but some people are a bit dramatic. So when I cut out the gendered language, it makes it easy for everyone to digest the information better. Been what I found. Even
Well, yeah,
before the
because
push for pronoun stuff and all that, I used to talk like that just to make it easy to process, and you could easily pull it into your own world. to assimilate it.
Well, depending on the topic too, it can be
Yeah.
a distraction if you're going into,
Yeah.
you know, all women cook or all
Right.
men provide or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but is that true? You know, and then off you go on a sidetrack, right?
Yeah.
And the point, if there is a larger point, the point gets lost because the sidetrack just happened. And
Yes.
we do this all the time. And, you know, I'm not here to say we have to stop all the distractions. Just be aware that that's what they are.
Yes. That's there's a reason why the distractions work.
Of course there is. And there's a reason
So,
for that.
and you'll find that even, this is the general you, that we employ those tactics ourselves for
Of
things,
course. It's part
which
of
is
you.
why, like, for conspiracy theories, like, I never totally discard them unless they're beyond what I could, consider credible, is because just knowing people do conspire. Like, it's just the thing. And then if you upscale it to people who have really a lot to lose, you'd have to realize there's probably more conspiracies. Who was it? What comedian said, you don't have to believe every conspiracy theory, but if you think the government's batting 1,000, that's your problem.
Right. Exactly. And conspiracy theories, well, you can generally find when something's a conspiracy theory because when you start looking into it, you don't find anything that backs it up.
Right.
Whereas there is a thing called agnotology. I've mentioned it before, but it's a really good thing to go look up. Agnotology is the study of exactly what big companies and governments do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when research comes out that tells you something that puts them in a bad light, they will immediately produce three or four, maybe more, depending on how important it is, quote unquote studies to dispute that, to cast
Right.
doubt. And what they want to do, what agnotology is misinformation, deliberate
Mm-hmm.
misinformation, and sowing seeds of doubt. And a confused mind will go for the confirmation bias. And so, if the easiest thing is to believe the negative stuff, that's where you'll go because human beings, we go for the easiest route. No judgment on that. That's how we operate. That's, how we get through life. So that's that thing. But know that these companies are putting stuff out that's been made up. People are blaming science these days. No, 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 no.
Right.
What often happens is the scientists that are employed by these companies, and come on, people, everybody has to make money to live, so they got to be employed somewhere. A scientist is employed by a food company, they'll do the research. And if the research doesn't look good, it gets binned, which is about
Mm-hmm.
60% of what they do. And then when it can be used, what happens is the company takes the research and they write the conclusion. They use the statistics, the numbers, to make the conclusion the way they want it to. And so the scientist has done part of their part, but they weren't able to complete it. The company did that bit and the
Yes.
scientists get blamed for the whole caboodle. Now, they do know what's going on, yes, but they also have to eat. So you got to have this understanding of how that situation is. So, okay, conspiracy theory or not, what I'm going to say is always check. If you're going as far as looking up studies, first of
Mm-hmm.
all, kudos to you. Thank you. I
Right.
appreciate that. Secondly, look to see who paid for it. Look to see where the money came from because if a study's paid for by the dairy industry, then of course cow's milk is good for you.
Mm-hmm.
How can it be otherwise? And the thing is, in science, if you don't get the results you want, you can change the question. Isn't that cool? So, for
Yeah.
example, if you wanted, let's use cow's milk for a moment. If you wanted to say that cow's milk was good for you, then you start off with the question, does cow's milk reduce osteoporosis?
Right.
The results are going to come back. No, it doesn't. It actually increases osteoporosis. And there's a whole process behind that. And I'm happy to go into it if somebody asks. But Okay, so you still have these results, but damn, that's not the answer you wanted. So now you change it to, does milk have an excellent source of calcium? Well, you can look at the same results and still get that answer. And yes, it does. So does chalk. Is it something your
Yeah,
body can use? Is it something that's going to give you what you need exactly? No. But that's not the
yeah,
question they asked. So science is as good as a scientist using it. And it depends on what they're asking and who's paying as to what the results are. But the scientists don't necessarily lie about the results, but the question might get changed.
yes.
And
Well,
that's so
that's
important to know.
yeah. Well, that's what I tell people, right? There's the actual phenomena itself, be it this case science, but there's the culture around it. There's what everything that we do societally as people and everything that we intertwine around it, intertwine. Anyways, that we do around it. Like, and this is like, the so the Higgs boson theory or Higgs boson particle, right? Marketed as the God particle. I was watching an interview with one of the guys working on it, and he's like, we don't call it that. He says that's how we get our funding. We call it that
Mhm.
to get we call it that to get our funding. But it all that hype around, he says that's not what we're doing, but that's going to get us our money.
Right. And that's basically what every single person on this planet's trying to do is get money. And so you do it the way you are gifted to do it,
Right.
ideally, because it goes badly when you're doing the wrong thing.
Yes.
And you do whatever's required to make it work, and that's all there is to it. Insurance companies, you
Yeah.
have to put things under the categories that they require, not necessarily the category that is appropriate if you want to get paid for it, right? Doctors
Mhm.
have to do that all the time. It's not their choice, but they have to do it because that's what they're given to work with. So, science, don't focus on the scientists and dissing them because, again, that is a
Right.
smokescreen, it's a distraction. Who is paying for it? And what do their results, if you really want to dive in, what do their results typically look like? Because that'll tell you who's writing it. It gives you a really good indication. But I was naively quite shocked when I discovered that, oh, the scientists don't get to write their own conclusions. Holy smokes, that's not okay. But, I discovered that to be true and I checked it out wherever I could in books and what have you. And like, yeah, this is coming up a lot. And reputable scientists are saying so. So,
Yeah.
we can't ever be dead certain on something, but if you at least have sources to back up and they're reliable, then, you have a good shot of being accurate.
Yeah. You know, trying to think if we're going there. We'll go there. We'll go this way a little bit. So think about the Me Too movement. Think about the stuff now with Sean Coombs, P. Diddy, or to those of you who like prefer the P. Diddler. None of
Whoops.
this is new. None of this was even hidden. Like when the Me Too, well, actually, so the original purpose for the Me Too movement was to protect Black women from oppression, like from sexual assault and stuff like that. And then it evolved. But people were like talking about the casting couch, in
Hmm.
like as if no one had ever heard about it before. And yet almost a running joke in Hollywood. Like you can see skits of like them actually making jokes about the casting couch, about people, well, women especially, but it's not exclusively women, but it's mostly women, sexual
Hmm.
favors for roles. It's like none of this is new. It's been out in the public, it's been out in the popular consciousness for like forever. But all of a sudden, oh my God, it's a new discovery. Like we didn't know this happened. Like this is not
So
new. Actors,
that's
child actors have been talking about this for decades. Like,
so that's something where I'm curious about what's going on right now as well, because the police are actively releasing information to the public, and this isn't in trial yet.
right.
So, what happened to the whole innocent until found guilty thing? And I'm not questioning what happened or didn't happen. because that's not necessary right now. What I am questioning is why have his human rights been run over so spectacularly and so continuously? Because, as you said, the
Yeah.
evidence is out there, but they're feeding it to people all the
Yeah.
time. It's another distraction at election time. That's one thing.
Hmm.
But what else is behind that? Like, he really pissed somebody off, didn't he? Because
Yeah.
he's done a lot. Like, it's one of those things. How far does he have to go before people say enough? You got to stop. This is highly just wrong on so many levels. And yet he's been able to do this for an awfully long time. And it's an open secret, if you will. Why are we now being fed this?
Well, that's what I mean, right? It is an open secret,
Yeah. But why are we being
and
fed this? Very
people come
intentionally
out and
to
act
keep
like,
people inflamed.
yeah. Well, and that could be it, right? With the
Hmm?
release of the Epstein's flight logs, with all these Me Too accusations that have come out, you need you need the scapegoat. I'm not saying, but you take someone who did something, but you take someone with low power,
Well, I don't know that
or
his power was low.
someone out of favor, basically,
And that's what I'm curious about is why is he out of favor and with whom?
or
Because
he's decided
who's
to
left?
be the sacrificial lamb on himself.
Not consciously, I don't think. But
Like this is where the discussion gets muddy, right? Because now it's like, well,
mm,
what was the motivation? Why? And there's X number of reasons why you can motivate, why someone is motivated to either throw themselves under a sword or to take the blame for whatever or be the face of something. Either
well,
you
we
had no
may find
choice
out.
or
We
yeah,
may find out and we may never.
yeah.
But I do find it interesting and noteworthy that he is everything is being fed to the public, every little nuance,
Well,
which holy smokes, please don't. And it's not in trial yet. You're
that's the
not
thing, though, right?
supposed to do that. Where do they find an impartial juror?
This is what I'm saying.
Good luck.
So depending on like how conspiratorial you want to get, right? Basically, feeding all the information out beforehand, one can sour the jury pool, but it can also be
Uh,
seen as a case for mistrial.
well, yes. So again, why is that happening? I mean, I'm not offering an
Yeah.
answer for the question. I'm asking the question. Why are they doing that?
Yes,
But I'm also curious, why is nobody complaining that they're doing that? Why is nobody
there
offended
probably
or
is.
outraged by the fact that this guy is having his entire life put out there in public and it's not even in trial yet? Because normally, well, we have to keep that under wraps until, it's
Yeah.
presented in court, etc., etc. Not in his case. Now, I'm sure there's a section of the population that are going to say it's because he's black.
Mm.
B, I doubt it. Because, Epstein, but I don't know, could be. But what else is it? What else is it? And maybe did he pick on the wrong person finally, or what? But I'm also not only curious about his part and why this is so public, but I'm curious about the public not being concerned about that.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I was just, thinking about when you brought up, why would you do that? And I'm like, this episode can get so depressing from there, right? As to why
Okay.
someone does something, as to what motivates them to do with this particular accusation. And it's like, okay, we gotta not go completely depressing with this. But but your question of why is the public accepting it? And that's a very important question to the listeners who are listening to this, because if you're going to awaken spiritually, you have to consider these ideas. That's
I
why,
think it is an important question, and I haven't heard anybody else ask it yet.
and it's why
Fascinating.
it's why I group spirituality like I do 4 levels. The first level, those dear, dear, sweet children, as how would you put it? Sweet summer child or whatever, one time. This is hard for the brain to accept all these things. Because, like, even when I go to a movie, I'm like, am I like, endorsing, like, am I giving money to pedophiles? Am I giving money to sex traffickers? Am I giving money to drug dealers? Am I giving money to people in organized crime? What am I doing? Like, who am I? Who is my power going to? Who's my financial power going to when I go see this movie? Even when I buy a product, right? It's like, who's my money going to? Who am I giving power to?
So the thing is, when you go that line,
Yeah.
you can end up going too far and getting totally
Mm-hmm.
stuck and paralyzed. And
Right.
and you got to temper it with how much how much can you know? How much do you have
Yes.
capacity for? But also, what are the important questions here? And in this particular case, it's not so much what he did,
Yeah.
because okay, that's out there and it
Mm-hmm.
has been for quite some time. And you can see that on lots and lots of film footage that they're putting out. But
Right.
nobody is asking, why is it okay to do this? Wow. You know,
You're
like
right because
this is epic because they're putting out all the evidence that would have him in jail for, several lifetimes.
mhm,
They're putting out all that evidence intentionally bit by bit, right? Like
mhm,
they're not throwing it all at you, they're not holding any back, they're feeding it, they're
right.
literally feeding it the way you feed your plants.
Mhm,
Why? And why are people okay with it? And the silence from people suggests to me that they're okay with it. And if you're okay with it, then it means you're participating. So that's something to sit with and consider. So if you're somebody who's been consuming this media and, relishing, and I mean that, relishing the dissing of the guy and the shock and the horror
yeah.
and, oh, this
Mhm,
terrible person and da da da. Like if you're really getting into that, and many people are, then hold up a minute and just consider, why are you in that? And I'm not asking about whether he's right, wrong, or whatever. That's not
right.
the point. I'm asking about you, the individual. Why are you okay with that being out there right now, before it's even in trial? Why are
Yeah.
you okay with somebody else's rights being run over? And that's, a lot of answers can come up to that. But for the individual, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important question because it'll give you your moral compass.
Because it is a very late, like my understanding of American law, like I don't know state by state, but my general understanding of it is that's an incredible violation.
Yeah. No, it's not something you can do. You can't put the evidence out there. You can't get an impartial jury if you do that.
No.
How's that supposed to happen? So again, my question is, why are they doing it is a very important question, but also why are people okay with it? And I'm even more curious about that. That's like, okay, that's the deeper layer right there. Because
Yeah.
if people didn't accept this, it would stop. So it's being fed. Just like watching the news and believing everything they tell you. Uh, yeah, they're going to stop if you call them out on their bullshit,
Hmm.
but people don't. So, what role do you have there? What is your contribution to this situation? And
Right.
that's something for the listener to ask. I ask myself this when I catch something, and it's a really good question because it helps you figure out, what did you miss? What are you picking up on?
Right.
And where's your moral compass on this? Do you need to like set your true north again?
Yeah. Well, it's tying into what we've been talking about. This is why, like, because you can't deal with every situation. You can't have, so it is really important right now to take care of who you are and to look into yourself
Mhm.
and to be, frankly, the best you can be,
Yep.
not just for your food, like I've said before, but for yourself. Because if you're if you're trying to solve problem R and you're geared for problem F, F's not getting solved.
Right.
And R might be solved in a very not good way.
And I've okay, let's say that we all accept, because I think generally speaking, we all accept that there is something else when we leave this planet, right? You
Right.
have a spiritual realm to go to, however you perceive that to be.
Yep.
So, my question here is, what are you taking with you to that? Because you take what you've done here, what you've learned, you take that with you. That's in any religion as well, right? Good
Mm.
person go to heaven, bad person go to hell,
Yeah.
yada yada. You have whatever your version of that is. So what are you doing here? What is your point?
Yeah.
And I don't mean something as flippant as, oh, I'm here to help other people. Like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, lovely. But no, really, what is your point? What lessons are you learning? What are you taking with you that evolves your spirit?
Yeah.
And and these are, I think, significant questions. I think they are. Because otherwise, you're just living the same day over and over again, and then you die. Did you do anything? Like, and I don't mean all that legacy talk stuff either.
Right.
It's a word that bugs me because it's overused.
Hmm.
But it's not the legacy thing. It's all about, did you grow? Did you develop? Did you learn something? Did you evolve? And if so, in what way? Was it real? Like, did you really learn something? And
Right.
if you haven't yet, that's okay. You still have time because you're still here. So
Yeah.
get busy. What are you here for? The bigger purpose,
Exactly.
not the I'm here to help people. That's
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
all here to help people because we're
Yes.
social animals. Some of us have lost that and some haven't, but it
Yes.
is what people do.
That's a very important note. We're a social species, so yes, if you're not here to help people, then you're the problem.
And you've also lost what you're here for.
Yes.
But
Well,
that's a very basic sort of, okay, this is where we're at
mhm.
on the planet. My question is, where are you at when you're not on the planet? What are you taking with you? And that's, did you evolve or are you going to have to come back and do it all again?
Well,
Eek.
it,
For most of us, the answer to that's going to be eek. And no, you don't get to say that, no, I'm not coming back. That's not a thing either. But the question is, did you evolve? And one of the ways one of the paths I use to evolve is cycle breaking.
mm,
I've mentioned that before, but that's a very real thing. So if you come from a background where there's abuse, break that cycle. If
mm,
you come from a background of racism, break that cycle.
yeah.
Pick a thing. But the cycle's everywhere to be broken. Break a few.
Yes.
See what's there then.
It's this is very much a good episode for the new year.
Cool.
You know
Yeah.
what? Even if somehow it works out that I'm wrong in the timing of it, I'm keeping it for January.
Okay.
Maybe even a January 1st episode just to ring in the new year. Because it is like,
It's a
all right.
super
I
long one.
paused because I was trying to figure out not I was trying to figure out, it's the flow was blocked.
Uh-huh. And this is
So
as
I can
long
only,
as the bonus episode we just recorded was short.
yeah. So you know what? Yeah, this is definitely a January 1st episode. And if people take away from this episode, because this is very much everything is intention,
Mhm.
and your intention sets everything you do, not just magic, just the material world, the material stuff. And I guess I will add this because I wasn't sure how to add this into it. But right now, where we are as a society, as a planet, we're doing things that affect the spiritual world right now.
Mhm.
And so it's why the cycles happen in the first place, right? Because you develop enough as a species to start to have an effect on the spiritual world to the point where the spirits are start to be uncomfortable, and now they have to take not matters into their own hands because that's not how it works, but they have to take notice and kind of make themselves known. So you're going to find a
Mhm.
lot of spiritual stuff coming up, and I'm allowed to put that out, but I'm not allowed to say the rest of it.
Okay. Well, I have a thing that
So,
came up that I want to
okay,
add
go
in.
ahead. That could be it.
There is a saying, the path to hell is paved with the good intentions.
Hmm.
And you can read that different ways, as you can anything that's religious, right? And that does come from a religious kind of teaching. Path to hell is paved with good intentions. So, my grandmother, for example, used to take
Hmm.
that to mean that good intentions don't mean anything because that's the way to hell. The
Right.
way I take it is the path to hell is paved with your good intentions because you dropped them. You
Right.
left them on the floor. You're not keeping your good
Mm.
intentions. And so they're paving that path. So just something as simple as the path to hell is paved with good intentions. What did you think it meant a minute ago? And what do you
Mm.
think it means now? Do you have a different perspective? Was that your perspective all along? Do you disagree? Like, even something as simple as that might not be what you think it is.
Right. But you know what? You brought up exactly what I needed. So what happening is the way we are right now is changing the spiritual landscape. So even now, the spiritual world is being, and I'll use this term, is being molested by our behavior.
Yeah. And if that term's
So
too strong, you can always say unsettled, deeply
yes,
unsettled.
unsettled. But sometimes the strong word gets the action.
It does. I'm
We can
just
go get the
offering
grease, right?
that. I'm just offering that for palatability for the listener.
Yes. And you should, because not everyone's going to be motivated by that. Some people are going to be turned off by it and it's not going to work. Again, two people are better than one. So yeah. And so I guess the overall message of this episode for the new year is know that we've grown enough that we now have an effect on the spirit world. There's now enough of us on the planet with enough energy making changes, and it's time to be better stewards of the spirit world at the same time. Not just the material world, but now going into the spirit world.
That I'm doing the whole mic drop thing, people,
Yeah.
because that's actually that's the point.
So, or to put it for those of you who probably aren't listening to this podcast, but hey, people can share it. For those of you who believe in heaven, we're destroying heaven right now.
Hmm. Okay.
That's the kind of effect we're having.
Well, we're certainly having an impact.
Yeah.
And again, people aren't really picking it up in the way that I would like to see. And that's got nothing to do with anything. That's my
Right.
lens again. But like look at climate change, right? We've got so many people that have gone from people don't affect climate change to recent disasters, and now they're saying
Yeah.
it's weather warfare and there's
Mm-hmm.
seeding going on. Okay, that's a conspiracy theory because there's some evidence, there's a little bit of evidence because there are weather stations that, try to cause rain in drought
Right.
areas and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Weather warfare is it's a bit of a stretch because it's not making sense with where it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to say it's not possible. I'm just saying it's really interesting that people have gone from human beings don't have any impact on the weather to human beings are controlling the disasters with the weather. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, that was a hell of a leap, really fast. So where else are we
Yeah.
doing that kind of thing? It's just, I think, don't believe everything you think. Go examine some of it. Is that true? Does it
Yeah.
hold up? And the Buddha said millennia ago, measure it against your understanding. Does it seem to be good? If it does, take it and use it. If it doesn't, put it
Mm-hmm.
to one side. There was no judgment in any of that. There's just what can you use and what can you not? And
Well,
then
that's what I
forward.
was. Yes, that was kind of one of the things I was hoping for people to take from today as well.
Mhm.
Because you can't, when I said I don't know who I'm supporting when I go see a movie or I buy a product, the thing then becomes, well, since you can't really know because people are going out of the way to hide their connections a lot of times, it's what do you do with it?
Yeah.
What do you do with that thing you bought? What do you do with that media you consumed? Because that then becomes what's important. Because who knows? Maybe you redeem someone who needs redemption. Like maybe
There's
someone's intention was to sell this product to cause a certain harm, but you found a way to turn it into something good. Like, okay,
there's so many areas in life to focus on. So I think picking one that you can actually have some control over
right,
is your best bet. And that is always going to be you, your intention, how you show up, being honest with yourself, being the best you that you can be, and being honest. Because the word authentic gets
Hmm.
bandied about left, right, and center. It's another one of those words that have become irritating to me because you can be authentically you so long as you agree with everybody else. But as
Yeah.
soon as you stand up and say, I don't agree, then, people get rather annoyed with you. I know I do this sometimes and I get on the receiving end of that, and that's
Yeah.
that's okay. I know it's coming kind of thing. But it's like, but you do need to be authentic and you don't have to broadcast it everywhere. Just just be it.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if anybody else knows you're being it. You're the only person that matters to you, to your integrity. And
Yeah.
others will pick it up as they may or not. It doesn't matter. It's completely immaterial. You cannot control how somebody else sees you.
That's the thing. Yeah. It's the you put whatever you do out into the universe and let the people who need to pick it up because you can't always figure out who they are. So you put it out there, which is why sometimes stuff in this episode, or not just this episode, but this podcast, sometimes seems unrelated or seems a strange change in conversation. It's because it's for someone out there who needs it.
And it typically follows, I think.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's the thing, right? Like it's over because again, as I said before, because I review these for quality, like, technical quality, I notice the things I didn't see before, or I see the connections I thought weren't there when I first listened to it. And it's like, and then I'll listen to another episode and be like, oh, this all connects in a bigger web, even if it seems disjointed when we're talking about it.
mhm.
So,
And intention, the whole topic that this podcast started
mm,
with, is really, when you look at it, it's who are you at your core, and
yeah,
what do you want? Like, what do you want for others? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your planet? What are you working on? Because I still hold to the belief that nobody wakes up in the morning saying, I'm going to make some really shitty decisions today.
yeah,
But they do end up making some. And that can be from where your lens is pointed or the material you're working with. So raise your standards. Like, look for better sources of information, look for better people to hang out with. And by better, I mean better suited to you. I'm not talking status. Status
yeah,
doesn't matter. It's unimportant completely. It's do they lift you up or do they pull you down? That's elevate those standards. That's what I'm talking about because then if everybody's working on doing that, we'll all get pulled up.
yes. Was it a rising tide raises all ships?
Yeah. And that's exactly true. You don't do well by poking a hole in somebody else's boat. It doesn't improve your lot any at all. Really
Yeah.
doesn't. It just shows
No.
something about you that other people will notice.
Well, and that's the thing, right? You never know who's watching.
And you'll take that into the spiritual realm with you as well. Do you really want to answer for that?
Yep. And it's funny, right? Because you don't even have to have someone outside of you tell you, because normally your actions have a way of coming back on you. I'm not talking
Mhm.
about karma. It's just there's a very practical, you drill a hole in the boat
Well,
and then there's no boats left, and that was the one you had to go on.
thank you for mentioning karma. I just want to point out karma is the law of action, it's the law
Mm,
of doing. So it simply means you get the results of what you do.
yeah,
And people love to run with that as it's payback. Well, that's a negative connotation to something that actually doesn't have judgment. It's simply if you go and do good things, just like law of attraction,
yeah,
reticular activating system, this is another way of saying the same thing. You go out and do some good things for the right reasons,
mhm.
and that will come back to you. And if you do good things for the wrong reasons, well, it's going to come back differently.
Yeah.
An example, I saw somebody on social media the other day who had filmed a person sitting at a table, and this guy was crying. And she went over to him and asked him why he was crying, camera running the whole time.
Hmm.
And he said, well, I've just lost my mom and I'm really upset. And she said, oh, can I sit with you so you're not alone? Right? Like
Hmm.
explaining the whole thing for the camera. And the camera's running the whole time. And then she posted this. Now,
Yeah.
I will often scroll past those as fast as possible or remove them from my feed, but in this case, I stopped and I told her off
Mm,
because that is not a charitable action. She was really looking for attention and she wanted people to tell her what a good person she was.
yeah.
And, and she kept trotting out this thing of kindness is free, kindness is free. And I said, no, it isn't. It cost him his dignity, it cost him his space to grieve, and it cost him his anonymity. You
Right.
just took all of that away without permission, and you made his grief public. That is disgusting. And yeah, I am judging that because I'm judging her intention, which was really
Right.
clear from her actions. So where somebody else might go and sit with the guy and say, hey, I see you're really sad. What's going on? Would you like me to be here for a bit?
Hmm.
And they do that without a camera. Okay, that's one thing. Doing it with a camera is transactional. It's a whole
Yeah.
other thing. And it stepped way away from being a good action. And it actually became a very detrimental action. It flipped the other way because of the intention.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good example, actually, and it was just on social media yesterday. So people may have even seen that one. Well, not by December, but people
Right.
may, you may have seen it. But I got very, very annoyed about it because he had no say in the matter. At no point did she ask him if this was okay as she's walking towards him with the camera running. And would she have done that without the
Yeah.
camera running?
That
And
is the other one.
her defense was, well, kindness is like a tree falling in the forest. Does it even happen if it's not recorded?
Mm. Yeah.
And the only thing I can articulate with that is, wow.
Yeah.
Like, if that is your level of intention, you have some freaking work to do because you've lost the point. That's not
Yeah.
kindness. That was not kindness, actually. That was unkind. Like when people go and give food to the homeless and film the whole thing, and oh, look, he's crying, he's so happy. You should
Mm.
be ashamed of yourself for filming that. That is the worst thing you could do in that situation. It'd be better to just walk past him and ignore him than to do that.
Yeah.
But the intention is wrong,
Yeah.
right? The intention of somebody who's doing that isn't what they say, which is, well, I'm trying to encourage others to be kind. No, you're not. You're trying to get all the likes and the approval, and at some
Hmm.
point, you're going to try and monetize this. This is not kindness. It's masquerading as
Yeah.
kindness, but I call bullshit on that. That is not kindness. It's not a kind bone in your body when you're doing that. That was intentional, transactional, premeditated.
Yes.
None of that is kind.
Yeah.
So, what are you looking at? Superficially, oh, wasn't that nice of you to do?
Yeah.
But think about it for a minute. No, it was not.
Yeah. There's a. Sorry, there. I'm still. I was not. Anyway, I'll put it like this. So I've noticed that in this episode that we're talking shop at the same time we're doing the episode, and it was kind of interesting to me to think about it. And I just kind of wanted the listeners to understand this is just basically how raw and how sincere these episodes are. Like,
Mhm.
because I had said, oh, we'll make this a January 1st episode, like as if the people listening, it's not going to be January 1st for them, and then you said the thing about, then you kind of said December, and I was thinking, like, yeah, we're talking shop at the same time doing the episode, but, I do want listeners to know that you're getting a sincere conversation. Like,
Oh
like I said,
yeah,
I don't edit it.
this is
So,
stuff that comes up as it comes up
yeah,
and as it seems important to share. And I would love for people to look at the motivation with charities and stuff, and it goes right back to the breast cancer
yeah,
giving, not just breast cancer, any cancer, but giving money to these places. Who are you actually giving it to, and what are they doing with it? What is the intention there? And I am very um, leery of people who show themselves to be such good, charitable, kind people
yeah,
because they're showing themselves in this way. The true philanthropist is somebody like, okay, musician George Michael.
right,
He did so much for so many people. He was giving money away and setting people up and doing kind things left, right, and center. And nobody knew until after he died
right,
because he didn't make it public. He didn't use it to try and leverage popular opinion when he got into trouble for some
Yes.
illegal stuff he did, etc. Like
Yeah.
he could have said, "Oh, but look, I'm such a good person, I do these
Hmm.
things." And it would have been legit. It was true. But he didn't use it in that way because his kindness, his charity truly was. And he was doing it anonymously. He was not showing it to people. That is the way to do it from good intention because you're only trying to help the other person.
Right.
You're not trying to get currency from it.
Hmm.
When I first went to work in an orphanage in Bangladesh, I went because I thought it'd be utterly fascinating. I was tropical diseases trained and I was going to have a blast. And I did. It was great. But I came across other people who were there thinking and articulating
Hmm.
that they were basically scoring brownie points for heaven. Look at me, I'm sacrificing myself to do this.
Yeah.
And at the time, I got myself into trouble for calling bullshit on it because no, you're
Mm.
not. People don't do what they think they're going to hate. You don't say, I'm going to take this job. I think I'm going to really hate it. Yeah, good idea. Like, we
Yeah.
don't do that. I'm going to go put myself in this situation because I'm going to hate it. No, we don't do that. You are going to get something out of it, and that's okay. But let's be honest. And
Well, yeah.
that's the thing. I'm asking for people to be introspective, honest, brave enough to be honest with yourself. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, you don't have to tell them.
Mm.
Curious, not judgmental,
Mm.
and really be clear on your intentions. Because there is a world of difference between filming yourself giving a sandwich to somebody and actually going and sitting with the person in a restaurant and buying their food without a camera.
Yeah.
It is not the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what I
Uh,
got.
Yeah. I think this is a good place because I'll be honest with you, we could like go so many places from here.
Mhm.
But 2025 is going to be the year of some very interesting discussions on this podcast.
Oh, 2025 is going to be quite something.
Because
Because
that's while you were talking, that's when I seemed distracted. It's because it's the oh yeah, they're like telling me, the spirits are telling me, oh yeah, that's just wait, 2025 there.
it's going to be a thing.
That's where this podcast needs to shine because it's going to be foundational to well, what we do here will be helping.
It
It
is
will help people with the
light.
found. Go ahead.
It's a flashlight for people who want to follow
Yes,
the path.
that's the what I'm looking for.
We're just saying, hey, here's an option.
Yeah,
And these are some things to look out for. You don't want to trip over the boulders, you don't want to fall in the pothole, da da da. And we're here with the flashlight pointing those things out
yeah.
as we see them. And then what you take and mean of that is entirely up to you. I said to a coaching group,
Mm,
2 days ago, that we take things, whether it's food, whether it's other
mm.
people's actions, whether it's our own actions, we take things and we make them mean something. You have a choice as to what that is, but be honest about it.
Yeah, and know that that's empowering too,
Totally. Because you're the only
because
person that's got that power. You're
yeah,
the only person on this planet that can control that.
right. Because like I said, like 5 or 10 minutes ago, you don't know where everything comes from. So if you take it and you make something from it, you have the power to do that.
Mhm. That's
So
that is what the only thing you can control is you. And when you spend time looking at others and wanting to change what they're doing or change how they are, change how they show up in the relationship or whatever it is, you're looking in the wrong place because you can't fix that. You can't do
mhm,
anything with that. It's not your business.
yeah, and that's a good place to end the episode on.
Yeah, we've had a few. Like there's places people can hit pause.
Yeah, there are. And again, I've said this a few times now. I really recommend that you pause if there's something you don't understand. If you need to look something up because we didn't explain it, please do so. If you need to listen to an episode more than once, yes. I mean, we're not monetized, so it's not like we're getting paid for you to re-listen. So you're doing it purely for yourself. So
Yeah, that's a good point. This is not monetized. It's not, there's no advertising on it. Neither of us are getting anything out of it other than the pleasure of each other's
right.
company and being able to speak this way. That's what
Yeah.
we're getting out of it. That's what I'm getting out of it. So,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm getting it too.
That's very cool. And if you have questions, I love it when people ask questions. It doesn't happen often, but I really like it. And because it helps us to know what's landing and what's interesting and what isn't. And the whole cinnamon episode was because somebody asked.
Yeah.
So, you know, ask.
Hmm.
Ask the things. If we have an answer, we'll give it. If we don't, we won't.
Right. All right, we'll try to find it out.
Yeah, depends on the
Even if it's
question.
surprise. Yep. So I like that. So we're gonna end here. So once again, I'm Daniel Dubois,
And I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And
That's right.
buckle up, Buttercup.
Yep, because this is going to be an interesting year. So
Yep.
stay tuned.
Stay tuned.